Yeah.
so we can spread it out.
Why don't
through
we
the
do
segments.
just the blanco?
Just the blanco and
yours
this?
are reposados or
okay.
añejo? This is reposado,
this
right?
is
But just
reposado,
by
this
the
is
color.
añejo.
And this is añejo.
Okay, so we'll do
artisanal. That will be the
okay.
category.
So what we'll do is we'll no tasting in segment 1. In segment 2, we'll taste the blanco. 3, we'll just do a beer. We also will be tasting 3 beers. Do you drink beer?
Of course.
Okay. Will you drink and taste with us and talk about them?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. So we'll, second segment we'll just do a beer. Or sorry, third segment we'll just do a beer. Fourth we'll do the 2 Carreras, the Reposado and the Añejo, and then in the last segment we'll do your special one.
Yeah.
So 1 beer today?
No, we'll do 3 beers, but just in the third segment will be only a beer, no tequila in the third segment.
Okay, so we'll do a beer in second.
We'll do a beer in
second, third.
Yeah, let's do a beer in second, third, and fifth.
Yeah, okay.
Because in the fourth we're going to do 2 tequilas, the
Gotcha.
the Reposado and the Añejo. So, okay, that just helps me
Check,
to walk
check.
through
1,
that
2,
a little
check.
bit in advance. So,
Check.
all right.
Oh, yes, with the mic, make sure it's about 6 inches away. when
Yeah,
you're talking.
yeah. You almost can't get too close to it. Oh, we can
Okay.
steady.
It's
Ian,
a
will you help
little-
her with that
Oh,
stand?
yes. Actually, it's the stand's pushed down and loose.
Yeah.
That'll sit a little more stable.
Is this the right distance?
It's a little too far.
Little
You want to
bit
be.
closer.
You want to see how I am right here is about how you want to
Oh,
be. Because if
okay.
you're further back than that, we'll still be able to hear you, but you'll sound a lot
Create echo?
softer than the
Oh.
two of
Yeah,
us
yeah.
do, and he'll have to crank it up, and that gives more.
And then if you accidentally go like this, it gets real loud. And real
right. so
So, would you mind turning
During
my
one
headsets
of the
down just a touch?
tastings, I would like to mention the different types of
Oh, good.
of-
For
of,
yes.
and I
of
did bring a
glasses
few
and-
tequila glasses also.
Yeah.
Just
And I don't have them all. Like I don't
I
have
may
the.
have one, you don't?
And then it depends. Everybody can use the glass they want, right? I saw George Strait using just a rocks glass.
Yeah.
And he puts ice in.
And he
his
puts
tea.
ice in
yes.
his.
But.
So
see.
I brought one
Okay.
of those, and I also have the slightly
Excellent.
larger version,
Yes.
so we can
Excellent.
talk about those as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, awesome. All right, we're about 3 minutes to 1. So, what else, Ian? Is there anything we haven't gone over?
I think that's pretty much it.
It's all very loose and no
It's very conversational.
very
It's-
conversational. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We're not going to put you on the
I'm
spot.
not gonna give a lecture.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so nervous.
but you can if you want to.
No.
We'll just say in this segment, Lilianna's going to give a lecture about the agave plant. All right, let's do a little mic and headphone check here. I think I need
Check,
more
check, 1, 2.
phones. Adam, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Check 1, 2. Give me that's about right there.
I could use a touch less on mine.
Mm-hmm.
Check, check 1. Check 2.
Extra wire for you here, so that doesn't.
Reminder to turn down cell phone.
Oh,
Yes,
I'm
I'll do
sorry.
That's all right. Flip this one like this. There you go.
that. There you go. Perfect. Now you don't have to use the headphones if you find them uncomfortable or you don't want to
Check,
have them on
check,
your
1,
head.
2.
You
That might be a
you
little
can
too
do,
low.
You can do without them.
Check,
Some
check,
guests use them and some don't.
Oh.
We generally use them, so it's
That's
totally
way
up
too
to
loud
you.
now.
Check,
is
check,
that,
1, 2.
Is that one of those hair trigger things?
I
Yeah,
think
check,
I
check.
will feel more comfortable.
That's fine. Leave it like
without
leave it like
them?
that.
Okay,
It'll be
so
fine.
let's just you
Oh.
can put them there, or we can just pull them back and put them up here. So, all right, check 1, 2. Adam, I actually need a touch more. I'm sorry. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check. That's up. Yeah, that should be good right there. All right.
Also, for general comfort, if that ring is too low, we can raise it so you're not dangling.
Oh.
Because that'll make that when that happens, that always makes my legs fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's also, we're not on broadcast radio, so there's no language restrictions. So should you choose to use a 4-letter word, there's no problem with that.
I don't use them.
we every so often, but not I'd say more often than not we don't have a single one in the show, but it is okay. And some of our guests do like to swear, so occasionally we have I like to swear, but I'm used to not when I'm talking
Right.
on the microphone.
but not in a mic.
I almost have to think about it to do it on the microphone. So yeah, let's go ahead and go live. So when he gets us live on Facebook, we'll all share it out, and then one of the things you'll want to do, because your phone will be streaming the show, you'll want to turn the volume down.
It's already
Okay,
mute.
yeah. And even if you have the speaker off, though, it's important to turn the volume all the way down so we don't hear the echo, because the stream is 15, 20 seconds behind the
Okay.
so if you
Let-
get a volume, perfect
Both. media
perfect
and-
okay, good so
Second, picking up the stream.
okay.
Here we go. Okay, we are live now.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Everybody picking up the stream.
I don't see, oh, there we go, we're live. Okay, so if you scroll down a little bit on the page,
There we go.
oh, actually you got to go to the Smoke and Toast page again. Yeah, there you go. All right, so if you scroll down, oh, there it is right there, the live box. If you tap that, okay, now. And so now you can see it's a little different on mine.
Don't worry.
Ian,
if
you have an Android. How does she hit share from the screen?
It should say should say share on the bottom.
So see one share.
Mine says cannot play video.
I can always show the video
Let me do a
afterwards.
quick restart. Is that Android? Let me see. Actually,
Yeah, I can't find the share button on it. On that, mine I just hit the live and I get it. And I hear somebody's phone is not turned down. Check.
that's a weird one. Oh, there it is. Okay. See the bottom corner where it says share?
Okay.
So we just touch that, and then you can share it as a post, and that'll share it to everybody, basically. Okay.
We call this segment "Smoking and Toasting versus the Internet."
Ready to start?
All right, I am ready when you are, sir.
Intro starting now.
Smoking and toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Share with friends or start watch party.
You can do
No,
e-
just hit the post, and that'll post it up as a right post.
Well. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine little program known internationally as the world famous Smokin' and Toastin'. It's good to have you on board with us. Smokin' and Toastin' is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Welcome to show number 198. We are super excited about today's show, and we'll tell you why in just a moment. But Smokin' and Toastin' is brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. The coolest shirts for cigar fans. They all start under $20. You can grab them for yourself or anyone you know that loves cigars at MyCigarShirts.com. And Ian, I just wanted to mention, this is August. My birthday is in September. So if you're looking
So
for
this
a
is where to
good
shop.
gift suggestion for me for my birthday, feel free to go to MyCigarShirts.com and check it out. Those shirts there's really some cool stuff there. Well, welcome to show number 198, and welcome to our special guest appearing on Smokin' and Toastin' for the first time, Lilianna Rodriguez, our new tequila expert. I hope you don't mind that we refer to you that way.
Well, I feel a little intimidated
Oh,
with the
this-
word expert.
That-
I prefer to be called a tequila aficionado or
Okay.
a tequila enthusiast.
Okay, those are both acceptable, and I know that you don't know our friend Chris Hart. But Chris Hart was named by Texas Monthly Magazine. He's been on the show a number of times, has his own show called Whiskey Neat, which is great. He's been on the show a number of times, and he was referred to this last year in Texas Monthly Magazine they referred to him as a whiskey expert. If Chris is an expert, you were an expert. Trust me, and that's no slight to Chris. But it doesn't take that much knowledge really to be an expert in something, I think. But you're an aficionado for sure. And so I should explain how we came to meet Lilianna. My wife has known you for a long time. And she started showing me, because she knows how much I love tequila, she started showing me some of your posts on Facebook, because you and her are friends on Facebook. And she showed me one of your tequila shelf. It's like this huge shelf full of tequilas. I was like, so how do we get invited over to her house? That was my first question. And then the next thing I thought was, we really haven't. We've had some, tequila ambassadors on. We've certainly done some tequila shows. Stuart Skloss from Pura Vida Tequila was on with us, and we tasted some of their great stuff. But we really have never had someone on who could talk to us about the history of tequila and some of the differences between the different expressions and what to expect. And so I thought, well, based just on what I'm reading in your posts, I was dubbing you an expert already just from that. So anyway,
Yeah.
we're thrilled to have you, and you
Thank
brought
you.
lots of tequila. Oh my God, look at all this stuff scattered around the room. I see that in the front of the display here, you put what I think is probably my absolute all-time favorite tequila, if not all-time favorite spirit of any kind, which is Jose Cuervo's Reserva de la Familia. And I'm not a big fan of the regular Cuervo expressions. The Cuervo,
Agreed.
It's okay, but it's not something I go out of my way for. But this stuff, oh man, did they ever nail it with this? And it's a different edition that they put out every year. And you were telling me just before the show, you've got, because they do, the boxes are different every year.
Every year since 1995, when Cuervo Distillery celebrated their first 200 years.
Yeah,
The
wow.
only one I missed, unfortunately, was the one associated with the Rolling Stones.
Oh, okay. So you missed the special Stones
but
box.
we have all the others.
Ian, I don't think we've had a chance to show that. Is this the latest box here?
No,
The orange
I'm
one?
sorry. It should have the
Yeah.
year written
I think
somewhere.
I've got the latest one. I have not seen this one. This is beautiful. Every year they do a different box and use a different artist expression. But
Does
anyway,
not have the year on
anyway,
the box.
it's beautiful. I love it. And the artist.
2010.
There you
Did I
go.
miss it? How did I miss that?
Colección
Oh, I see it now.
2010.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're beautiful boxes, and but even if I'd buy it, even if it was in a paper sack, because it's so amazingly good. So anyway, thank you
That
for
is
bringing all of
awesome.
this in. You've also brought some things for us to taste, and we're excited about that. We're also going to taste. I brought along. I don't want to call this a new tequila, but it's new to me. It was the first time I'd seen it on the shelf at the Specs down in Midtown, where I am most likely to shop, and it's Tequila Carrera. And what I did was I got the Reposado and the Añejo, and I thought we would talk a little bit.
Why buy just one?
Well, exactly. Why buy just one? Well, I thought we'd talk a little bit about, when we do the tasting, we'll talk about the differences in flavors and what people should expect. If you're paying a little more to get an Añejo, what should you be looking for to justify the extra expense that you have?
And
that
you
put
know
into it?
how I became interested in tequila, right?
Well, I know you were born in Mexico.
Yes.
And I know that you have been interested in a long time, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure how it started.
Well, when I came to Texas in 1982, I think one of the things that fascinated the most was my culture. So I started little by little through the Institute of Hispanic Culture to lecture about the Aztecs, their knowledge of medicine, because I was in the medical field, about cactus. I grow cactus.
I
as
saw
a
you're
hobby.
a member of a Cactus Society. Yes.
of
Oh my
America.
God.
And
So
but
awesome.
then, because I was teaching at the medical school at UT in the medical center, I got invited from the University of Guadalajara for their international program.
Okay.
So for 12 years, I was going at least twice a year. And during your free time, you can do anything you want. So
And tequila becomes an option.
Oh, yes. I went there in every possible way, in the train, by bus, or using the chauffeur from
Yeah.
the university.
Yeah.
So it was wonderful because I wasn't subjected to a tour for tourists. I was going.
Right.
He
Doing
will
your
take
own
me
tour.
to the
actual-
little
yeah.
distilleries and all
Right,
that.
right. So, well, let me just say, first of all, it sounds like an awesome experience. And secondly, if you're lecturing to students at the medical center, you have no reason at all to be intimidated by being on this show. I mean, we're just a couple of guys that drink stuff. That's about it, you know? And occasionally we smoke, which we'll talk about in a moment. I did want to mention we will be doing some beers on the show today as well. Eureka Heights has what I believe is brand new. I just saw it for the first time and I grabbed one. It's their von Wolfhausen.
Yes.
It's a Festbier. Are you familiar with this beer?
No, I haven't tried it yet.
So
I've heard about it, but I haven't tried it
I'm
yet.
wondering if it might be similar to the Guten Tag that St. Arnold, a similar style to the Guten Tag. That
Yeah, I haven't read
St.
up
Arnold
anything
does.
about it. I just know
I
that
don't
it
know either,
exists.
but we'll be tasting it today, so I'm looking forward to that. From Denver, Colorado, Westbound and Down Brewing Company has done a beer with the best pandemic name I've ever seen. It's called Elbow Fives, as in,
Nice.
instead of high fives, it's elbow fives.
It's all elbows.
Yep. And so this is a special edition double IPA. We'll be tasting that one. And then, Ian, you recall that when we did the All Together beer, the one that's that's
Just
the
a
big-
few
right,
weeks ago, yeah.
Right. The one that we tasted was from Untitled Art out of Woodnockie, Wisconsin. And I was in my specs and saw another beer from Untitled Art there. And I thought, oh, this is in a 4-pack. I'll buy this. We'll try it on the show. And when I was checking out with it, the cashier freaked out. He was like, oh, there's a new Untitled Art. It was like, so I found out that he is a huge follower of this particular brewery, and he
nice.
thinks that they're his favorite, and he freaked out because he hadn't seen the beer yet. But we'll be trying it today. It's the Untitled Art Chocolate Banana Imperial Stout.
That sounds fun.
So that sounds like a
you see chocolate in a lot of things, but banana's not one that you usually see in a stout.
That's true. Now my wife makes these great banana shakes. They don't have any ice cream in them, but she blends them up. And banana is what you use to get the consistency. And she puts lots of chocolate in those, and they are delicious. So I'm used to chocolate and banana together as a flavor. Plus the frozen bananas, if you ever had a frozen banana.
Okay, yeah, I've had that.
Those have got chocolate on them. So, but yes, in a beer, you usually have banana or maybe you have chocolate, but I don't think I've seen one that's done them together. So this should be interesting. A lot going on in the world. There's a major news story about cigar rights. We'll be passing that along, and I'll give you a hint. It's good news. So that's
It's about time.
well, we got to do good news a few weeks ago, and now there's even more. So that's something we'll share with you. EP Carrillo has a new contest where you could win a humidor, and it's pretty easy. So I'll we'll share that with you just to make sure you don't win a humidor and not know it. Because that wouldn't be good, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of spirits and beer, including news of a 6-pack of Fat Tire beer, retail price $100. What's up with that?
I don't know what to say about that.
I don't either. We'll tell you about that as well. So, and there will be drinking news today. Lilianna, drinking news is when we do a story that may or may not be about drinking, but it's always the type of story that's fun to hear when you are drinking. And so we'll share that a little bit later on. So going to be a very full show, a very exciting week. Ian, I was wondering if you'd had an opportunity to smoke anything interesting this week.
I did. I decided to very much go the cruise route this time.
Oh, really?
So you can guess just by saying that.
You went AJ Fernandez.
That I went
didn't you?
AJ Fernandez this time.
I thought so. What did you try?
The Witch Doctor.
Oh, the Witch Doctor.
Have you tried that?
I have not.
It's been out, I think, since 2014 or 2015. And I got some conflicting backstory on it. Apparently, it was exclusive for JR Cigars.
Right, that's where I think I've seen it.
Right.
On the JR website.
But I bought it at Casa de Monte Cristo right off the shelf.
Well-
and then one of the things said it was exclusive for Sirius Cigars.
Interesting. Well,
So-
Sirius Cigars is what Casa used to be
well,
called.
it's
Yeah,
Casa de Monte Cristo at Sirius Cigars. I
Right.
think is their actual name there. So I was a little confused by that. But either way, I picked it up because it was interesting looking, and I thought, I hadn't seen this before. I hadn't tried it, so I figured I'd try it. Plus, it's got the coolest wrapper on it.
Yeah. Well, AJ did really his start in the business was doing cigar lines for other companies. He did, that's how Diesel got started. That's how
Diesels are great.
Some of the other cigars that he made early on before he started releasing them under his own name, and then eventually doing them for Monte Cristo and some of the other brands. But anyway, so I agree. I don't like some of AJ's older blends nearly as much as I like what he's doing today. But Witch Doctor I've never tried, so I'm real curious what you found.
So the one I picked up is a Toro 6x50 box press, and it's a very nice box press. I mean, it feels real good in the hand. The wrapper is Sumatra, binder and filler are Nicaraguan. The appearance on this dark brown box press, oily, leathery, smooth wrapper, very firm feel overall. With a great label on it. I'm assuming Adam put up the picture. I'm not looking at it right now. So,
I see it right now.
The pre-light sniff on this, pleasant barnyard leather coffee, a little exotic spice, hint of black licorice on the nose. The pre-light draw on this, I used a clip. It had a light draw on it, tangy pepper and hay on the lips, creamy coffee and chocolate on the draw with slight licorice and raisin in the aftertaste. The initial light, nice tangy pepper blast. It's that Nicaraguan tobacco pepper blast that you expect, but tempered down a little bit. It wasn't just spicy pepper. It had a tanginess to it that was really nice. Backed by coffee and bitter chocolate right off the top. I really enjoyed the initial light on this cigar. It was very nice. The first third of this, pepper settles down a little bit. Coffee and creamy chocolate take over as the dominant flavors. Secondary flavors included earth, leather, licorice, hay. Had a solid ash and a perfect burn on it. Nice. Second third of this, mellow, sweet coffee and chocolate interplay. It got really sweet on me, and it was very, very nice. That was one of the biggest developments, is how much sweetness came into this.
You don't often think of sweetness when you think of Nicaraguan tobacco.
But this one had a lot of sweetness to it. It had an earthy hay and pepper and kind of a classic AJ Fernandez fashion backing it up. Dark toffee and licorice flavors kind of followed with a natural tobacco sweetness on the lips. And a peppery linger on the palate that was really nice. You know, like after the aftertaste kind of thing.
The kind that gives you that little tingle on your tongue.
Just a little bit,
Love it.
The last third of this, creamy coffee and chocolate remained. The pepper ramped up a little bit. Licorice was a little more present at the end of that. It got and a little touch of mint I started getting right towards the end of the cigar that brought in. I really, really enjoyed this. I gave it a 5.5. On this because it is not a super cheap cigar. It's $8.30, so it's premium. But I think if you buy a box, it comes down a little bit from there, so that might put it up to a 6. But at $8.30, I gave it a 5.5 on our price to quality scale, and really enjoyed it. And I'll be going back and getting more of these. And it was pretty good smoke overall.
Love it, Lilianna. Our price to quality. When we talk about the cigars that we're kind of giving some tasting notes on, we use a scale of 1 to 10 for price to quality. But a 5 means you got exactly what you paid for. The cigar was worth every penny. If you feel like it punches above its weight class a little bit, it might get a higher rating. In this case, Ian gave it a 5.5. If it gets lower than a 5, that doesn't mean it wasn't a good cigar. It just means that relative to the cost, you may or you may not have quite gotten as much as you could out of the cigar experience. So I did an interesting one today. It's the Perdomo Habano Sun-Grown Robusto. And I did this. I had this one actually right before the show, but I was able to jot down a few notes. First of all, this is a really interesting cigar. It uses a Nicaraguan sun-grown wrapper, which they age for 6 years at least, and then they put it into bourbon barrels and age it for another 10 months inside the barrel.
That's very patient.
Yeah, boy, no kidding, because I'd be like, roll that baby up. Let's smoke. The filler tobacco all comes from Nicaragua as well, but from 3 different regions of Nicaragua. The pre-light aromas on this were almost, and I wrote this word down in my notes, and I almost hesitate to use it because it sounds like I'm making a bad pun. They were almost intoxicating, not in a liquor way, but just in that, ooh. You know,
Yeah, you just want to sit and
you just wanted to
enjoy it.
take
It's
it
a
in.
beautiful cigar.
Rich earth and leather, sort of a boozy vibe, all on the pre-light, but not like an infused cigar. If you've ever smelled like those rum cigars and stuff that you can buy that are like 10 for $1.
Yeah, that's not so much.
Right, they have that. You feel almost smells like the tobacco was dipped
Right.
in the spirit. This is not that. It was very subtle but very very present. So once I lit it up, I could tell it was going to be a powerhouse, just like from the first puff that it was going to be strong. Big notes of spice and leather on the palate. A slight oakiness, which probably comes from the barrel aging. The spice, though, it wasn't all pepper. It wasn't just that sort of traditional Nicaraguan pepper that you usually get on the front end of a Nicaraguan cigar. Instead, I don't know. It was really a bit hard for me to identify. I want to say a hint of red chili. It wasn't that pronounced, but it was definitely different from that usual sort of straight ahead pepper. Spice flavors mellowed a little bit by the midpoint of the cigar, and I could start detecting a little more of the bourbon barrel aging of taste in it. It wasn't strong, just kind of lying under the other flavors instead of like coming in and wiping them out. Sometimes when you get like the barrel aged, like the Camacho, that becomes the sort of
the very
primary, more
predominant,
predominant, and this wasn't like that. It was more subtle. Once the stronger spices faded out a little bit, I picked up some notes that were more like baking spices, which surprised me a little bit. I'll bet that this cigar would have gone great with a St. Arnold Oktoberfest. It just had that
which is about to be out.
Yes, I know. Very excited. So anyway, it was very full-bodied all the way through the smoke, but the strength did not get in the way of the rich blend of flavors. Sometimes if you get one that's real powerful, you kind of only get the force of it and not as much subtlety. That was not the case. Construction was very good. It didn't burn razor straight, but it was fine all the way. Never needed tending. Really, really enjoyed this one. Nice nuances for it to be as full-bodied as it was. If this were a longer cigar, I'd give it an even higher rating. But at $8 for a Robusto, I'll give it a 5. I mean, it was definitely worth the $8 for the Robusto. But I'm now in my mind, when I'm trying to figure out what score to give it, I'm comparing it to, Toros and Torpedoes that I've had that were at that same price range. It's like, okay, I'll give it a 5. So solid 5 for this. I recommend it very highly, though, especially. And I've been doing this lately with the cigars I've talked about on the show. They're a bit of a change of pace from what I might normally smoke. Trying to grab something different. So that one was a lot of fun. Okay, I'm so excited to talk tequila, and I'm so excited that Lilianna is here. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will not only talk tequila, but we will taste tequila.
Good, because I'm thirsty.
And I think there's a song somewhere in that. We'll be right back on Smoking and Toasting. Thank you guys for joining us for show number 198.
Halfway to 200.
Almost halfway to 200, yeah. We'll be right back. Some of the tequila glasses? How do you want to?
Well, I don't have enough for everybody, and then we have to clean them up.
We'll use a plastic cup. So,
okay.
Do you want to pour, or do you want Ian to pour?
No, Ian, you do the honors.
All right. So, Ian, I'll pass that over to you.
Has anybody talked about how to read the labels?
No. So let's
okay.
Let
me do that first.
Yeah.
And then
you talk about how to read it, and then Ian will show the label to the camera, and then he'll do the pouring. So. I know. I should probably get. I should probably give you another cup so Mary can have it.
I don't have to always give me
No.
I'm just to learn. I know that she's just going to share so much that I will not know, so I'm just going to be fascinated.
I will also hand you that. And some cups for that. All right, we ready? Here we go, segment number 2.
Are we going to talk about the first the qualities before talking
Yes.
about the history?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll talk
Go
about that
back.
so we can begin the tasting, and then I'll go back and ask you to tell
Okay.
me a little bit about the history. All right, ready, sir? Love that bass line. Welcome back.
that's great.
It's Smoking and Toasting. We are so happy to have you guys along for show number 198. We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. If you're a fan of the show, go support our sponsor, MyCigarShirts.com. The coolest shirts for cigar fans, all starting under $20, and you can grab one for yourself or for anyone you know who's having a birthday in September. You know, anything like that. It's
I
a
feel like
nice.
you're trying to tell me something.
I don't know. I'm just riffing, just off the top of my head. Just trying to support the sponsor here. MyCigarShirts.com. Check them out. Our guest is Lilianna Rodriguez. Lilianna is, we like to call her an expert. She prefers aficionado, but she knows quite a bit about tequila, and she has brought with her one that we're going to taste in this segment, and it's not one I've had before. I've had a number of the different expressions of Jose Cuervo, but this is the Clásico Plata. And tell me a little bit about what we should know when we're looking at the labels for a bottle of tequila like this.
Okay. Well, this is a blanco tequila,
Right.
also called silver or plata.
Right.
That's the tequila that comes first out of the second distillation, right?
Right, so
Because
this is-
tequilas are distilled twice.
Right, and this one hasn't been put in tanks to age.
But the government allows, or the Consejo Regulador de Tequila allows up to 60 days
Okay.
to remain. It can remain in the tanks before it gets bottled. But
Okay.
it's usually not aged.
But if they age it more than the 60 days,
Then it's
not a
ho-
blanco.
No,
Right,
it's
okay.
not.
Okay, gotcha.
So there's a few things we always want to look at when we buy a bottle of tequila. First, we want to see if this was made from 100% agave.
Yep, that's very important.
Because some, as we're going to talk about later, are made with other sugars, molasses
Mm-hmm.
or sugar cane
This is where
sugars.
headaches are born.
Yeah, that's right. And well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to add flavor without the benefit of maybe aging the tequila to get that natural flavor from the aging, correct?
Correct. And then the other thing you want to see is that it comes from a reputable, organization. In this case, Casa Cuervo is the
Yeah.
oldest distillery in Mexico.
They
we
are
know.
reputable.
But if it's not, just do a little bit of research. You want to see that it has an NOM number, and that is the Norma Oficial Mexicana.
Okay.
Each bottle of tequila that is legal or, it comes from a reputable organization has to have a designated
Can I show that to
NOM.
the camera?
Yeah, let's definitely do that. Here, hand that to Ian so he can show the camera where that is. On this
And then
particular bottle.
and next to it,
above my finger there.
next to it, you're gonna see the initials CRT.
Okay.
That is the Consejo Regulador del Tequila.
So this
It is
means-
a group it's a non-for-profit organization that is in charge of inspecting the distilleries and ensure that all the steps follow the designated norms by the government of Mexico. And if the distilleries are small and don't have a laboratory for quality control, they can provide that.
They can provide the lab to make
Yes.
sure. Okay, good.
And some years ago, there was a little bit of turmoil, and I think the government wanted to get rid of the Consejo, but I think they're here to stay.
Okay, good. That's good.
So,
Good to know.
uh-huh.
And I was also going to ask you, it can't actually be called tequila unless it's produced in a specific area of Mexico. Is that right?
Correct. And that we're going to talk about that in the history, or you
Okay.
want
No,
me to
w-
mention there's only a few states that
Okay.
can make tequila.
All
That
right.
is Jalisco, the whole state. And then we have our areas in Nayarit, in Guanajuato, in Tamaulipas, and also in Michoacan.
So you could distill agave outside of that area, but you can't call it tequila.
Yes,
correct?
and the other major point is that it has to come from agave tequilana Weber, from that particular plant.
Okay.
Because there are many other agaves. Mexico has the largest number of agaves in the world.
Right.
And if it comes from other types of agaves, we call it mezcal.
Right.
So in
right.
essence, tequila is a type of mezcal.
Okay, that makes sense. And I want to talk a little bit later on about mezcal and what it's becoming more and more popular now as well, and we can talk a little bit maybe about what people should be looking for in a good bottle of mezcal. But I don't want to delay the tasting any further. So let's if you want to pass that over to Ian,
Yes,
and he'll do the pouring for us.
The one thing I would like to mention is this is going to be the strongest, but it has the most powerful aroma and the taste of the agave, true agave.
Right.
And this is what the connoisseurs like.
I have noticed in just the tequilas that I've enjoyed that you always seem to get a more distinct agave flavor in the Blanco. Once the aging starts, you might still taste the agave, but all of these other flavors begin to come in, and it's not quite as much of a just pure agave taste.
And the one thing I would like to add is not for everyone.
Right.
Not everybody appreciates it, and some people just use it for preparing mixed drinks.
Would you mind passing some of those down?
Yes.
Pass a couple of those over here. Thank you. All right.
There you go.
Okay.
I'll just mention my wife is sitting in the corner of the studio today because she had to come in because she was not going to miss Lilianna. So she's sitting over there
We need an
working
extra cup.
remotely.
Yeah, there we go.
And we'll pretend that no one knows that I just passed her a cup. She's drinking on the job. But that's what we do. This is our job. So
It's not the worst job I've
it's
had.
not the worst job in the world. So this one is going to be much more straightforward with agave. What else in a Blanco should we be looking for?
So
What makes a good
Purity.
Blanco?
Purity, you want to see that it's completely crystalline, right?
That's exactly
And
what
the-
I was going to mention.
Uh-huh.
Awesome.
So, and of course, you always want to smell,
take the
taste
nose,
it.
yes.
Now, this is an old bottle of tequila, and that's another thing that I want to mention. I, as a collector, just bought them to display them, and now I'm learning that you have to drink them. You
Right.
cannot keep them forever. Tequila doesn't get better with age,
In the
like
bottle,
unlike a good wine. So
in
you have
in
to.
the bottle, it's got a lifespan, correct?
So yes, at one point, all of my bottles had a little sticker underneath that told me when and where did I get it. But unfortunately, I couldn't find it anymore. So God knows this could be a 25-year-old
Oh,
tequila.
my goodness, wow.
So
Have you tried this yet?
Yes, I have.
This has a beautiful pepper blast and then a sweetness that just lingers.
It
It's
really does. The
absolutely
sweetness is what you
delicious.
get on the finish, and it kind of stays in there. It also is not. Sometimes the blancos that I've had before, I notice they're not as smooth, and so they give you a little more burn, a little more of that tequila hug on the finish. This one for a blanco, I think, is very smooth.
yes. What do you think about the aftertaste?
I love it. It's much more agave than what we'll get to later on with the reposados and the
There's
añejos.
almost
But
a citrusy kind of thing on
yes,
the nose.
yes, I agree.
Like a
It's actually really delicious. Now, I like this so much better than I like a Cuervo Gold. So this
let
is
me tell you, I don't blame you.
yeah.
Speaking of that, this is the kind of like the equivalent,
Right.
the Sausa Gold.
That's a Sausa
I
Gold,
have
okay.
bad news for you. These tequilas have really nothing really great. First of all, they're a mix. Only 51% of the sugars used in the first initial fermentation are from agave.
Okay.
Right?
So this is not
And-
this bottle you're holding. The Sausa
No.
Gold is not 100% agave.
No, it could be a mix, but also it could be a pure 100% agave. But then this is not the result of aging.
The
this
color.
golden color.
Okay.
You know where it comes from?
Where?
From artificial, colors or
Colors
things.
and
flavors.
Yes.
So is that
Yes.
the case like with the Cuervo Gold as well? It's not gold because it's
not
aged.
gold. And the Cuervo Gold years ago was initially produced for the American market.
Interesting.
You know, two classical drinks, the mixed drinks that use tequila, the margarita and the tequila sunrise, were developed in the United States.
Okay, so those came from the margarita did not originate in Mexico.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now this is of course years ago when people didn't know any better. That's the tequila that will sell the most in the U.S. No, that's no longer the case. But that gold, it will be somebody, or it will be purchased by businesses that are going to use them in their
Mixed drinks
machines
and-
with
right,
the
absolutely,
frozen margaritas and things like
And
that.
it does not say 100% de agave on here
Yeah.
anywhere.
And it's also
because
purchased.
it's probably is not.
It's also purchased by college students.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because if it was 100% agave,
It
would
will
act,
have-
it would
yes.
say
it, yep.
Yeah.
And another big difference here, the 100% agaves by law, they have to be bottled in Mexico.
Okay, got it.
The mixed tequilas, they can be shipped to other countries in tanks or
bottled
boats
there, right.
and bottled there.
Okay,
And they
gotcha.
can do their own dilution with, the still water or the mineralized water
Oh,
and
this
then
says
bottled.
imported and bottled by Salsa Tequila Import Company, Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just as she
So
was
that's
saying,
a lot,
Right.
like a lot of information sneaking around on the label.
they get tanks of it
Yeah.
basically shipped up there, and they bottle it in Chicago.
To be a good consumer, you have to read your labels.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn a lot by doing that.
That's well, because this Jose Cuervo Classico, this is really delicious. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect from this because when I've had Cuervos other than the La Familia, I've always thought they were okay, but they never really wowed me. This one is quite good.
You know, it occurs to me that if you're the person that harms salt and lime when you drink tequila, this is nothing like that tequila that you're drinking. This doesn't give you that involuntary shudder when you take a sip.
Right. It doesn't give you what I call the
Or the gag reflex.
or what I call it the college experience.
Yes, you don't get the college
I just want to tell to Ian that tequila has moved up.
Yeah.
Yeah, long are the days when you used to drink it with lime
salt
and
and lime.
salt.
Yes, absolutely.
Now tequila has its own Riedel glass.
So that's an
Yes.
actual tequila glass from Riedel.
Riedel.
That's
Since
great.
2001. They
Yeah.
partnered it with Casa Noble and this wonderful, it's similar to a champagne glass.
Right.
And
right.
that
This is the
directs
one-
the nose. and-
Yes, and of course, when we used to use the shot glasses.
Oh, yeah, that's
no longer really acceptable among the connoisseurs
Right.
and the people tasting tequila. But
But it does take me back to college.
oh yes, and look, there's been so many different styles.
Oh, yeah.
These are engraved by hand. I have a set of 20 that the Consul of
Does that have the
Mexico.
agave on there?
Yes.
Can I show the camera
That's
that?
awesome.
The Consul of Mexico gave me that as a gift when I got married in
Yes.
2003. So that
But
was
you're not a
that-
tequila expert. You just have gifts, tequila gifts from the Consul of Mexico.
Now look at this one.
Oh, now this is
That's
nice.
a typical Mexican style of drinking shots among your friends. They
Right.
all have jokes.
Okay,
That
so-
one says, "Wine and cigars kill your neurons." But don't worry because you never use them.
That's great. That's awesome.
Nice.
Well, this is so. Since we're talking about glasses, I brought a couple of the tequila glasses that I have up in my cupboard, and this one came when I bought a bottle of Gran Orindian. It came with a couple of these. Is this an appropriate shape for tequila?
Yes, I will say for an añejo. You
Okay,
want
right, something where
you
you're-
should
yeah.
enjoy an añejo just the way you enjoy a good cognac.
And then I've also got one of the. It's a little thicker glass, but you can see the.
I was
the
going to say,
shape
it looks
is the
exactly like
same.
a cognac glass.
Yeah,
And
it
now
really does.
I got to visit the Orendine distillery some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
These are the ones they use for the tasting.
That's so great. It's
Yeah,
just
they're
like a
beautiful little clay
yes.
jars.
Awesome.
Here's
That's great.
another
Oh,
one
I
from
love that.
Tequila Reyes. So yeah, there's a lot of different styles, but now among the connoisseurs, they do like a wider mouth.
Right.
And the purpose is so you can
So you can sniff
Yeah,
a
you get the
Yep.
nose and the.
Yeah. I love
This
it.
is
Aroma.
another old one and very narrow.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I like to critique, I always look at everything. I don't like a cactus being on the right here, right on this glass.
Cactus
It
doesn't
should
have
be-
anything to do with tequila, right?
Exactly. Same thing with this.
Oh, see, now I've seen
The
this before
Porfirio.
in a larger
Yeah.
bottle, but as you
What
can
is
see,
that?
it's got a,
You
it's
know
got
what
a,
is that?
Cigar.
That's like a
It's
prickly
a
pear.
saguaro.
Oh.
Saguaros have nothing to do with tequila.
Yeah.
So I'm very critical about that. So,
She and Wade Woodard would get
I
along.
actually was in Saguaro National Forest
oh, beautiful. Been there.
Yeah.
last month.
Nice.
Oh.
Nice.
That's,
Well, yeah.
yeah, this is funny because this one has
The prickly pear.
the prickly pear cactus, but a lot of it's made out of limes.
Mm-hmm.
So what is
Yeah.
Jose Cuervo telling you?
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
That's a very old one.
That's pretty
well,
funny.
Lilianna,
And-
here
yeah, okay.
on Smoking and Toasting, we use a very special tequila glass. It's plastic, and
Excellent.
it comes
Known
in
as
large
the
Wide
quantities.
mouth.
It does have a wide mouth.
It
Wide
does,
mouth,
it
I
does.
like that.
And this tequila is tasting really good coming out of it. All right, Ian, I passed you a beer over there. Let's switch to beer for a moment and talk about. I'm really excited to taste this
Talk
new
about
beer
von
from
Wolfhausen.
Von Wolfhausen. It's a Festbier.
It has a
from,
pretzel man on it.
Yeah, so that kind of gives away what I'm expecting the beer to be like, but we'll have
I'm
to
gonna
see.
need a couple more cups over here.
I will pass them your way, and if you'll give us, Lilianna, we also enjoy creating really authentic sound
this could be
effects,
mine.
He's
Okay.
and so Ian's going to do that for us now. Oh yes, that was great. That was great. All right, let me pass the rest.
when
of this
when creating sound effects, we actually have to sacrifice a beer every time we want to
right.
make a beer opening sound
But
effect.
it should be noted that beers may be sacrificed, but they're never wasted. That's an important.
You
thing.
know, they drink a lot of beer in my family.
Yeah?
My mama used to enjoy 2 beers for lunch and 2 beers for dinner.
Oh, that's
and
great.
I think I was already in my 20s when I tasted my first beer.
Okay.
And my mother used to tell me there's nothing like a cold beer to cure the thirst in a hot day.
Well,
and now
she
I
was
know
right about
she's
that.
yeah, she was right.
Would you mind
Help
passing
passing a
those
few
on?
of those over there. Thank you. All right. There you go.
That should be good.
Thank you. Yes,
So yeah,
this
we
is
have
for
the
Adam.
little
Adam, there you go.
German style pretzer man on here. It says Festbier is the best beer.
All right. Yep. I'm guessing this is an Oktoberfest of sorts, even though it doesn't say October anywhere on the
It
can.
says Pilsner, Vienna, and Munich malts join forces in this malty German Festbier.
Yeah. It already I can tell just from the nose. I want a pretzel.
Oh, it smells delicious.
Yeah, I
Crisp
really
and
do.
easy to drink, so you can eat way more pretzels. Pairs
see?
great with a little sausage.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. See, that's perfect. Something you just said activated Siri on my iPad. I don't know what it was.
You mean I could drive you crazy just by saying, "Hi Siri"?
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. I think she responded to the word Festbier. I don't know. But if so, Siri is really one of those AIs that learns. You know what I'm saying? If she's responding
This
to
is
Festbier.
you mentioned the Oktoberfest earlier. Oktoberfest usually has a little bit of spice.
Right,
and,
a little bit of that
this
sort of pumpkin pie kind of spices.
maybe
to it
baking
that-
spice kind
baking
of thing.
spice
This
makes
doesn't
you
really
think of
have
the
a lot
fall.
of that. It's very pretzel dough though. Very much very
You get more-
bready, especially
You
in
get more
the aftertaste.
the sort of baking spice bread kind
The
of vibe
retro
to it.
hail. I mean, it smells like fresh baked bread right through my nose.
It really is pretty refreshing and delicious, but it does make me think of the fall a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's way more malt profile. There's enough hops in here to finish it nice and crisp, but it's way more malt forward than what you expect. So this would be like almost the opposite of an IPA.
Right.
So, and much like you mentioned earlier, the Guten Tag from St. Arnold, this is a little more along that style of kind of the anti-IPA, I think. I kind of like this thing that's happening.
They'd be interesting to taste side by side because I
Guten
haven't had a
Tag
Guten Tag.
is sweeter than this.
Yes, that's what I'm remembering.
It's a little
yes.
sweeter and maltier than this. It doesn't finish quite as crisp and clean, but I like that in this too. I like
Yeah,
the,
this is actually quite good. I could see this
How are
being.
you feeling about the Festbier?
Excellent.
I love it.
The
Yeah.
one I like comes from San Arnold's. I've been drinking that one for a long time.
Which one
the
is
Amber.
it? Oh, the Amber.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And
yes. That's
my
a great
second
beer.
best is Bohemia from
Oh,
Mexico.
Bohemia. Nice,
But,
yes.
you know, Heineken took over Cerveceria Cuauhtémoc in Monterrey, where I am from, and that's one of the largest breweries in Mexico. And I will say that the taste changed a little bit.
You know,
That
happens.
We've
With-
seen that happen. Here in the United States, we've seen, Anheuser-Busch has taken over a number of craft breweries. It started out, as totally independent. They get bought up by Anheuser-Busch. In some cases, the beer has remained pretty consistent. In others, there's been some changes here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Our own local, we're in Houston, although we're heard all over the world. Our own
Mom.
local Karbach brewery, which was acquired by Anheuser-Busch. They're actually about to open a new brewery in Tomball. I don't know why I can't say Tomball. Chris Jurgen, who's the brewmaster for Karbach, is bringing a new brewery to his hometown of Tomball. He founded CCJ Collaborations, and they got their approval to put a new production brewery and restaurant facility in the Tomball Business and Technology Park. The name has not yet been announced, so I'm wondering if this is not actually a second Karbach brewery.
I don't know.
But it's something he's
Tomball has a
something he's
brewery-
doing on his own.
Tomball has a brewery called Red Ant Brewing. That
Yes, I've
is
heard of Red Ant.
outstanding, and their beers are really good. Their food is outstanding there. It's a nice place.
By the way, while we're talking about things that are local here, I just wanted to mention this before we take our break. Our good friend and cigar retail expert for the show, because now we have experts. See, we have
Yes.
a whiskey expert, we have a tequila expert. That's still what we're
You've
going to
now
call
become
you.
part of our
Yeah,
collection.
That's right. We have a legal expert, Trey Boring, and we also have our local expert on cigars and retail, Alan Denny, and he's a good friend of ours. Even though some might suggest that no one cares about him, the fact is both Ian and I care about him. So I wanted to mention this.
True.
His shop, the Galveston Island Cigar Lounge in Galveston, is in the running for an award in the retail shopping section of galvnews.com. So we're going to ask you guys, even if you live in Michigan or somewhere else, do us this favor. Go to galvnews, galvnews.com/reader's choice, and in the retail shopping section, vote for the Galveston Island Cigar Lounge for best lounge in the county.
There you go.
That's our boy Alan. So we're going all out to support him here.
and that is a great lounge. They put
It-
out.
it's so much fun.
You can actually. They put a new. They put some beams out there and put a dock out there, so you can actually boat right up,
That's
tie
great.
off,
Yeah,
have
that's
cigars,
great.
boat away.
And there is probably not a more enjoyable cigar experience than sitting on the back deck there at his shop.
Oh,
and
if you get a
smoking it.
chance to be there at sunset, sit
Oh,
on the back deck
it's
and watch
fantastic.
the sunset.
It really is
It is
fantastic.
amazing.
It really
Yeah.
is fantastic. And, you can do it and stay socially distanced and be outdoors. So, blow off Sturgis this year and then go to the Galveston Island Cigar Lounge and check our buddy out. He's a good friend, and we love what he's doing down there. Okay, let's take a break. We're going to come back. In our next segment, I think what we want to do is talk a little bit about the history of tequila. And I'd like to taste, side by side, the Tequila Carrera, Reposado, and the Añejo. We've done a Blanco now, so you can kind of talk us through what we should be expecting
Okay.
when we taste these two tequilas side by side. So thank you guys for joining us for this tequila-centric episode of Smoking and Toasting. It's number 198. Our guest is Lilianna Rodriguez, and we'll be right back. Especially during the breaks.
Make your plan. All expectations and demands. Just to see them so
I want to
Okay.
shake it a little
This is gorgeous.
but
too.
shake it a little bit, and I have never opened it. All these
It
beautiful,
feels like it's about that full.
all these beautiful Talavera
So it didn't matter whether it was open or not. I wanted to ask that. But
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
it
have
doesn't
to
matter.
drink them.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about
This
that.
is another example, but I didn't bring the big
Right,
one.
right, I've seen the big one before.
Yeah, look, not very good sealing.
Yeah,
and
right,
everything,
right.
And then I'm gonna lose them.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
right.
is my mission that before my husband and I die, we're gonna drink.
You're gonna drink 'em.
all the tequila.
There you go.
I have one. I have one a thing similar to that, but for me, it's by the end of the week.
Yes.
So, all right. So, Ian, do you want to do the pouring on these, or you want me to do it?
Up to you.
Let me pass them over to you. I'm going to pass you those cups,
Okay.
and I will pass you. This is the reposado, and this is the
Are
añejo.
these things in your way? Can I
No.
just move them a little bit?
They're fine.
How am I doing?
You're doing
I'm
great.
nervous.
Oh,
Absolutely
no.
I'm shaky.
fantastic.
You're doing great.
Shaking.
You
We're
keep-
just talking about stuff we like.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Another thing, if there is time, eventually, novelty tequilas at the end.
Oh yes, yes,
you know,
absolutely.
the marketing strategies
Mhm.
that they're using, I would like to comment about.
Oh yes,
that.
let's do that.
And I'm gonna put it next to you so you can.
Oh, yeah. Almost done with what I used to test.
I had others like this, but with bad words. So I didn't.
You had to pick and choose a little bit.
I like that beer.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
My son gave me the set of 4 Riedel tequila glasses.
Oh, they're beautiful. I
Yeah,
love
they
those.
are.
You have to like mention the cold straight.
Yes, we will definitely do that. I've got that.
And also, like some of the tequilas, they sell you their own glasses. The
Mhm.
one they
Yeah,
like you
right,
to
right.
taste.
Yeah.
Scared me for a minute.
All right, ready? All right, let's do it. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 198. And we are talking tequila today. The title of the show is When I Taste Tequila, which I think I borrowed from somewhere. I don't remember. Maybe just an enormous hit song that topped the country in the pop charts. Maybe that was it. But anyway, we are talking tequila, and I've been looking forward to this show because I knew we'd be
You've
doing.
been talking about it for a while.
I knew we'd be doing this, and I've been very excited about it. We also had really been looking forward to show number 200, which is now only a couple of shows away because we were going to do our big bash for 200. Obviously, with all of the social distancing that needs to be happening right now, it's not going to really be possible for us to get that many people together and have them all on the show. But
We
we'll
will have show 200 in exile.
Yes, we will do our bicentennial celebration. It will just be later. So, Lilianna, when we do, you will be invited because we'll be sending out an invitation to everyone who's ever been a guest on the show. Now, obviously, not everybody can make it. Some people live too far away or have other things going on. But we'll have a nice, large group of people. Everyone will bring bottles and cigars and beers, and it'll just be, well, show number 100 went on for about 4 hours.
Well, great.
So
I
so
don't
you're
smoke
invited.
cigars,
Well,
but I'll be here
as
and
long
drink.
as long as you can hang out with us while we do,
Yes.
it'll be awesome. So we'll let you know when it's happening and where it's going to be, and we'll all get together and we'll stream the whole thing live, and it'll be a blast. Speaking of smoking cigars, it has been a great week for cigar smokers in the legal area. Barring an immediate ruling in its favor, the cigar industry could not have had much better news or a much better day in court than it had 2 days ago. Judge Amit P. Mehta of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia used most of his words during this hearing to criticize the legal strategy and regulatory plans for the FDA. And sometimes he was even at a loss for words, according to the
Wow.
article in Half Wheel. At stake today was whether the lawsuit should proceed in light of the fact that last week the FDA announced, probably anticipating that this wasn't going to go well, that they were planning to defer their enforcement of these extremely onerous new regulations as they pertained to the premium cigar industry. And Liliana, what's been happening is because of vaping and the popularity of those, kind of like convenience store little cigarillos, and the fact that
Grape
they've been,
flavored cigar wrappers.
that they've been getting into the hands of some underage kids from time to time, and they'd been smoking. There was this sweeping regulatory law that was passed but had not yet gone into effect, and it not only imposed regulations to try to control that, but it imposed all kinds of regulations on the premium cigar industry, on a business that you never see a 16-year-old kid
When's the last
walking
time you
into
saw
the
a
cigar
16-year-old
shop.
kid walking
Yeah.
around with one of these?
Right, exactly. Spending $15 on an expensive Patron cigar, and so the regulations, while you could argue that they might have been good in some areas, they shouldn't have applied to premium cigars. There are already regulations. There are there are warning labels on the box. You can't an underage kid can't go into Stogie's or Casa de Monte Cristo and buy cigars. They won't let you. They ID you and they won't let you do it. So
it was a ripple effect.
right, it was a ripple effect, and so the cigar industry, the premium cigar industry, has been arguing and fighting against this for a long time. And next week, our legal expert Trey Boring will be on the show. He'll bring us right up to the minute on it. But it was a huge victory because the judge basically said, "Yeah, this is ridiculous, and it should not apply." The FDA had already indicated they were going to delay the implementation of enforcing this new law, which was supposed to go into effect September 1st. And most people in the industry are saying they did that because they knew they were not going to have a good day in court at this particular hearing.
But still something needs to be done to protect the health of our young people.
I agree totally with that.
Yep.
But they are not walking into premium cigar shops and ordering expensive premium cigars.
Well, we had
it's
a
just not
couple
what they
years
do.
ago. You brought in an article that that I absolutely love. The FDA spent however much money, like tens of thousands of dollars,
Probably even more than that, yeah.
or I don't even have a realistic idea of what it is, but tens of thousands of dollars on this survey to find out how many people under the age of 18 are smoking premium cigars. And they found out it was something like a nominal 2%.
Yeah, and not in
Maybe.
more smoking. Had ever.
Had ever, yes.
Ever. And
2%.
I would almost guarantee that in some cases those were instances where it's like my friend Dave did this when his son Sam was probably about 16. They had a big birthday party, and he gave Sam one of his cigars, let him smoke it if he wanted to. I bet most of them are even in situations like that,
Right.
where there's actual parental, it's not, Sam couldn't just walk into any
Nope.
place he wanted back then and buy a cigar. So, they
It's
spent all that
absolutely
money on this
ridiculous.
study to do something that they could have figured out by asking any cigar shop owner anywhere
Yes.
in the
And
world.
I guarantee you how many cigar shop owners have to actually card their people and be like,
Yeah.
you are not old enough to smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
How many 16-year-olds do you think Alan Denny turns away in
None. They don't go in there.
a
It's not,
year
yeah,
at a
they
cigar
don't,
shop?
They don't go in there. It's
None.
not happening. Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, so it's a big day this week for the cigar industry, and I'm very excited to say that things are beginning to finally look good after a very long time of them looking like it was going to potentially put a lot of smaller cigar companies and a lot of cigar shops out of business because some of these regulations were just so incredibly ridiculous. So thrilled to see that cooler heads are beginning to prevail.
That's
And that's a
they're
good thing.
heads with any sense in them.
Exactly.
I want to point out, I wanted to thank you. I'm going to pour this tequila while we're talking, but I wanted to thank you for doing the pre-opening on this.
Oh, yes.
So that way I don't have to fiddle with any of the plastic or anything
I
like
knew
that.
you would appreciate that. So last night I made sure I put the plastic off and made sure that the top unscrews. These are
Right,
screw
right.
top bottles here. Made sure that they unscrewed.
Did you
the
also
seal.
make sure that the tequila works on the inside?
Yes, that I felt that was important. I didn't want to, listen, I don't, we get accused sometimes of liking everything that we try, which isn't the case. But I do want, if this was really horrible tequila, I didn't want to bring it in and subject you to it. So
And remember, Ian, you have to check that is
Yeah.
100%
It's
agave.
quality.
That's right. That's
That's
That
right.
it has the CRT seal and the NOM number.
I actually, while you guys were talking, I actually looked at all of that on here. They're
See?
very proud of it. They have
Yeah.
the NON number on the front and on the
Yeah.
back. On
See,
this
that's
one.
that's very good.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about reposados.
Okay.
The age of the reposado, they have to be stored in oak barrels.
Okay, it has to be
And
oak,
It,
so
it has
like a-
changed over the years. Sometimes it has been 2 months, sometimes it's 6 months, but the current law is at least 2 months.
Okay.
Now, the oak barrels come from different countries. That's one interesting thing. They come from Canada, the United States, or France.
And these are
the second interesting thing is that they have been previously used.
Okay, I was just about to say
Yes,
these are not
for-
fresh oak
for-
barrels. They're-
For bourbon,
Right.
for wines, for brandies, different things. So every single component that has been there is going to add to the particular tequila.
So
right?
this is why when we taste one reposado,
It
it may
might-
have much different flavors than another one. The flavors are going to be what has come from this barrel aging, correct?
So now let's describe a little bit the flavor. It's gonna be less harsh
Right.
than a blanco, but we can still gonna be able to taste the agave.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the type of oak barrel is gonna provide a subtle influence. It could be vanilla, or it could be spice, and
Right.
also you could have some sweetness. So enjoy.
I have a couple things I want to talk about since you got me reading these labels. First off, on the front of this, they give you the NOM number that you were mentioning, so that's right there up front. 100% de agave is on here. Category 100% pure de agave, puro de agave, distillation double distilled. That's pretty standard, right?
Right.
The double distilled.
Double distilled because just tequila's always
Always.
distilled twice.
Reposado,
Always.
and then region Highlands.
Okay.
Is that a
The-
normal thing? Like different regions, like
That's
Scotch
very
has.
good. Let me tell you why. The blue agave only grows in 2 regions, and around Tequila, Jalisco, which is a volcanic area, and the soil
Right.
is very rich, but also in the highlands
Okay.
nearby in Amatitan, and both Tequila and Amatitan are about 30 miles away from Guadalajara.
Okay.
And in the Highlands, it has been studied and published, and it's well known that the best agaves come from that area,
Oh, wow.
from the Altos, and so it's
So that's why they're proud of this on the bottle.
Yes.
Then. This
yeah.
is a
And you know that agaves take about 8 to 10 years to mature, to be ready,
ready
right?
to be harvested and yeah.
And there's no irrigation systems. These plants survive from Mother Nature.
Totally in the wild.
Totally
Yeah.
in the wild. But the farmers, all the growers, and there are many, many now, this industry is supporting a lot of people. They, because it takes so many years, some of them use part of the land or the roads in between the agave plantations to grow other crops.
Okay.
Like they might grow garbanzos, or corn, and that's great, because imagine waiting 8 to 10
Right.
years
For that agave plant to get
When,
to
when, when
Right.
payday
Yeah.
when payday only comes 8 to 10 years apart, that's a tough one.
Now, did you know why it's called the agave tequilana Weber?
No.
Oh, okay, there was a famous researcher from Germany, Alfred Weber, and in 1982 he gave the designation to the blue agave the correct scientific name, agave tequilana, and in his honor they added Weber. And let me tell you, they call it the blue agave, and they're not lying. When you're driving from
plants are actually
Guadalajara,
blue.
you see those
Fields of blue, huh?
and they're beautiful.
Oh, that's
I get
awesome.
goosebumps. They're blue. It's a really beautiful
That's
experience.
I love it. I love it. This I find this tequila to be quite good. It's
It's very oaky.
very oaky, and I'm going to say something I don't think I've ever said when describing flavor of a tequila before. I almost get a little bit of the flavor of pear on the finish to this. It's at least that's how I'm interpreting it. It's just really light, and and fruity, but it's not a citrusy fruit.
There's
and
a
it's not,
fruity element
It's
to
not
it.
strong enough of apple. It's more subtle, maybe like pear. That's what I'm getting on it.
Can you
Definite-
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Can you smell the agave?
Yes, I was going to say
Mm-hmm.
definitely agave on the nose, and that's the first flavor that hits the palate. But then as you swallow and get the finish on it, and it is very smooth.
This
for a
bottle
reposado.
has actually a lot of information on it. They're very proud of this. They have the it's 80 proof or 40%. It's cooked in a stone or brick oven is what they use for cooking the
for
agave.
cooking the agave. Yeah.
Crushing, they used a roller mill.
So they're telling all this is on the bottle. That's
Yes,
fascinating.
fermentation, stainless steel tanks. Still type was a copper pot. Distillation, double distilled. Water source, deep well water. Aging time, 3 to 5 months. This one's interesting. Barrels, American white oak virgin barrels.
Virgin.
Interesting.
That's one new trend. Some people have opted for using just
And I think
Just
brand
straight
new,
oak barrels.
brand new. And you know how much those oak barrels are?
Oh, they must be expensive because
Yeah,
they
when they
haven't.
come from
yeah.
the United States, then can be up to $100. But if you buy them from France, they're $400.
Wow.
So, but that's
So
a new
they-
trend.
yeah, so there is some expense in doing
that.
Some tequileros are choosing brand new.
Yeah,
but you
there's
know
a
what
little
they
of that
do?
kind of youngish oak
Yes.
astringency to
Mm-hmm.
the finish that really does it. Also, if it was a charred barrel, I would expect, and I don't get a whole lot of vanillins
Mm-hmm.
in here. There's not a lot of vanilla.
Right, I've
Actually,
had-
I don't actually detect any real vanilla flavors in here. Sugar,
And certainly you
like
get
cane
some
sugar
in-
a little bit, and not that there is cane sugar in it, but it has a little bit of that cane sugar kind of earthy taste to
Mm-hmm.
it, and the other things we mentioned. But that oak is a really raw, astringent oak to it that I really enjoy.
You're right. The aged or the previously used barrels would likely have imparted more of the vanilla
Well, you would
flavorings
get that
and-
char
yeah,
and
right.
the,
Or if you char it, you know,
Right.
because
Right.
that's what they do. Some, you know, before they're gonna use
Mm-hmm.
them, they char, and sometimes they repeat the process after a
Mm-hmm.
couple of years or so. They
they can be recharred.
I actually
now
worry
this
a little
one
bit
you
we're gonna-
mentioned sugar cane, Ian, but this one is 100% agave. This
No,
one
I
doesn't.
I realize that, but it does have a little of that sugarcane flavor,
flavor
like
to
that
it,
earthy
yes.
kind of sugary, maybe sugar in the raw turbinado sugar. Not,
Mm-hmm.
not that it's in there, but there's a little
Little
bit of
hint
that
of
kind
that flavor,
sweetness
yeah.
to
Yeah,
it, you know?
Yeah.
And
agree.
of course we have to mention is much softer than a blanco, right?
Yes,
It's not
absolutely.
as harsh.
It's definitely got a little more smoothness.
Are
to
we
it. In
moving
fact,
straight on to the?
Yeah, we want to kind of do these side by side,
Okay.
I think. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and do the añejo in this segment.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I wanted to do these together, so it's the same tequila
Again, you
line.
pre-opened.
Yes, I did.
And-
But
And I will
Quality
also
check.
mention that you may have noticed, Ian, that I had to do a little deeper and longer quality check on the añejo even than I did on the reposado.
So,
as it's-
well,
there's a little
it's
more
best
of it that's
if you're
gone.
not sure what's happening. Sometimes it's best to double quality
Yeah,
check.
err on the side of caution. That's what I
Yeah.
try to do.
and you know the word añejo
Yes.
comes from the word año, 1 year.
1 year,
Which
okay.
was the original
So originally,
storage
an
for
añejo was 1 year,
añejos.
right.
And then it started to fluctuate, and then so people think that the longer they put it in the barrel, the better. So some tequilas might have been in an oak barrel for 18 months or two, and then that created eventually the last category,
Which is the extra.
yes,
Extra
the
añejo,
extra
yeah.
añejos. Now the extra añejos will have to be in the oak barrels a minimum of 3 years.
Okay. But you know, and of course, we talk about all kinds of spirits on here, and it's interesting because 3 years, you're like, wow, extra añejo, 3 years, and yet if we're talking whiskey, 3 years is nothing. I mean, it's not nothing, but that's not considered a very bold age statement for a whiskey.
That's
3
the
years.
beginnings of a whiskey.
Right, exactly. And so it's just interesting to me that that añejo tequila or extra añejo, considered to be the most aged of the tequilas, it doesn't take nearly as long. What takes longer with the tequila is the growing of the plant
growing of the
itself.
plant.
Yeah.
But I think the lack of aging, I don't say that with the right word. The fact that it doesn't need to be aged for 10 years or 12 years also lends to the fact that a really, really great tequila doesn't also have to start at $60 like
Right,
Scotch.
Right, exactly.
So I think because that turnaround's faster, it's just it's not as an expensive a process. Although the agave plant does take a while to.
I
grow.
use when I'm making margaritas, I use a a reposado tequila from a company called El Amo, and I get it in these enormous jars that are too big to enormous bottles that are too big to put on my shelf, and it's like $23 for this enormous thing. It's like it's unbelievable, and I've had that
And
tequila
it can
straight.
be that good
Yeah,
for that.
I've had
inexpensive.
we've had it here on the show. Actually, I didn't bring the enormous bottle, but we've had it here on the show, and it was very good. Now it's not my favorite tequila in the world for sipping, but the point is the cost of it is so low that I can use a reposado that's got really great flavor in it in margaritas, and it really enhances the flavor.
Every
of the margarita.
Wednesday is Margarita Day at my house.
Okay.
And we use reposados. My favorites, I use Centenario. Very
I like
good.
Centenario.
Or Patron. That's another good one. I will never use an añejo for a margarita.
Okay,
that's
so I wanted to
that's
ask
a
you about
mortal
that.
sin.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about because sometimes you go to a restaurant and you're looking at their drink menu, and particularly if they have more than one kind of margarita, you'll notice that they're using a Don Julio añejo or something like that. It really is just
It's
a
not
waste of good
yes,
tequila, right?
It's not necessary.
It's not necessary to get the flavors you need for the margarita, and it doesn't really. That one with the añejo isn't a better margarita than the one made with the reposado, correct?
Now, let's talk a little bit about what you're going to taste now.
With a splash of Grand Marnier, though, it's pretty good.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
but
we
the
use
Grenadier-
Cointreau.
Yeah,
yeah.
right. I use the and I think that Stuart Skloss brought some of it when he was on
Yeah,
the
we have
show.
some of that at the house
It was
this week we've
that
been
Cointreau, I think it's called. It's really wonderful, really wonderful. But
Okay.
tell us a little bit about añejo. What
Okay.
should we be expecting now that we're tasting these side by side?
First, let's just mention that añejo minimum 1 year,
Okay.
right, in oak barrels that may or may have not previously used to store another liquor, and
So
that's
this
going to
is-
have an influence on the taste, but also that by law, they cannot be stored in barrels greater than 600 liters.
Oh, so there's
the
a size right.
limit.
And basically, the reason for that, I would guess, is that the smaller the barrel, the more liquid to wood contact
Yes.
that's going to happen. So,
And this says on here, everything's the same as the last one, except for the aging time is 12 to 15 months. So still American white oak virgin barrels. Everything else is identical.
But you should expect, a darker color. It's going to be smoother and it's going to be more mellower. And then you might, again, capture some flavors depending on what was stored in those barrels before.
I don't have as much of the
Now-
reposado left, but you can see the color difference there
Yeah.
Between the two, with this being the
well, if I
añejo.
put the bottles next to each other, you can see
Right, you can,
that
you
we're
can
a
see
little
it totally
darker
there.
here than we are
So-
here. If I have
So
There we go,
we don't
background.
know what was housed in those barrels
Right,
before, right?
right.
But anyway, so once you have those barrels in the storage areas that have to be dark and dry as much as it can, but there's still some humidity might be necessary. When I visited and toured the Sausa Tequila Distillery, they actually have a system. It's complex, but creates a mist around the barrels so that
Keep
they
a little
don't
dampness in the wood.
so they don't evaporate inside,
Right,
which is
right,
another
makes sense.
risk with oak barrels storing some liquid for so long.
Yeah,
Right?
the
You have to
angle share.
control
The
the
angle
angle
share.
share. You have to reduce it as much as possible.
This one picks up a little more of that pepperiness, especially on
does.
the aftertaste.
And
It's
I do
interesting.
get some little hints of vanilla here, even though these were apparently also virgin barrels. It does have a little more of that añejo flavor. I will say, though, it's not nearly as caramely, mapley, vanilla as a lot of the añejos that we've tried.
Right.
And that probably has to do with the barrels. It would be my guess. But there is a little of that here, and it's also really smooth.
Let me tell
Very
you
easy to drink.
something among the new trends. what is the called? Código. The Código tequilas. That now they have their own George Strait.
Yes,
That we can talk later about.
Yeah, I want to ask you about
celebrities
that.
and
Yes.
tequilas. They are actually buying barrels, not from Canada or from France, or they're buying them from Napa. So some
they're
of
wine
their
barrels, yeah.
añejos have housed
The
Cabernet.
yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
So again, you're gonna have a product that is gonna
Different
have
flavors,
a
yeah.
completely different flavor.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating.
And then when they make that reposado, guess what's gonna happen when you store red wine for many, many years and then you put a tequila?
Gonna change that color.
Color.
substantially. Yeah, it's
They
gonna be
have
reddish.
a rosa,
Yeah.
tequila
Right.
rosa or
Right.
rosé.
Now, what about the Plata tequilas? The ones that, the ones where they're crystal. I'm looking for the right word, but it's the ones where they basically filtered them to remove the color.
Oh, okay.
Because I've seen some tequilas. We've had some here on the show that were
Mm-hmm.
they were not clear because they were a blanco. They'd had some aging to them, but they were still a clear liquid. That seems to be becoming a trend as well, is it?
Yes. A new trend also, the words organic. The words gluten-free. Have you seen?
I didn't know there was gluten in tequila,
Yeah.
but
hey,
they're
it's
using it
gluten-free, yes.
as a buzzword for
Yeah.
the new, you know,
and it's completely vegetarian.
vegetarian.
And if you
yes.
put it in a skull.
Yeah.
No animal cruelty involved.
That's right. That's absolutely
Oh,
right.
what's the crystal skull one?
Oh yeah, the Crystal Skull tequila.
Yeah.
By the way, I noticed this when I was shopping for this. They're not using the skull anymore. They've changed the bottle. It's a more ornate bottle that looks, a little more like this one, but it is. It's not quite as crafted, but it's got the Day of the Dead skull face on it. But they've changed it. I guess maybe they thought they were being too gimmicky. Now I'll tell you right now, one of my very favorite tequilas is in one of the most gimmicky bottles
It's
of
true.
all
It's
time.
true.
I love it, but that's only because I love all the Day of the Dead art and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But the Skelly Añejo tequila, oh, that stuff is wonderful. And it's so dangerously easy to drink. You really almost don't feel any heat from it at all, and you can put away quite a bit of it very quickly if you're not careful.
Since you had that beautiful iguanas
This is a
bottle,
gorgeous bottle.
Yes. Let me just give a word of caution.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when I saw it. I immediately bought it for my collection. But remember, sometimes these elaborate bottles don't come with good sealing.
This one
yes.
still has the package seal around it,
But
I'm
shake
holding it,
it.
and it feels like maybe there's that much tequila inside.
Sadly, I found
it out
out
again.
that they're evaporating, and so we're gonna have to. My
Wow.
husband and I started drinking all those 200 plus bottles of tequilas we have in the collection.
Well, these are the, as I'm fond of saying, these are the kinds of problems to have. But yes, you're right, though. A lot of the more novelty bottles. Now, one thing I like about the Skelly is it still has a cork top.
Yeah.
It has a skeleton
The
head
modern
on the top
cork
of it.
top, yeah.
But it is a modern cork top that seals up better.
Even
so.
this novelty tequila too,
The
in the
Republic
shape
tequila in
of
the shape of
state,
Texas,
the
yep.
state of Texas. Look
Yep.
how much it has evaporated
Oh, right.
since
You
I
can
bought
see
it.
there's already that much. It's already
Yes.
that much away from the
Yeah,
top. So
they
that's
don't
very
come- yeah.
interesting. Very interesting.
You have to be careful of what kind of sealing they're using. Now, as a comparison, there you have the
You got the-
Reserva de la Familia. That's a good seal.
That's got a wax seal above
Wax
it. So
you got
yeah.
that.
above the cork, and that really protects the bottles.
All right. So let's take a quick break here. I am going to do a little drinking news when we come back, and we're going to have another beer in the next segment. And I'm enjoying this tequila so much I've forgotten how far we are in the show. Adam, are we still on 3? We are still on 3. Okay.
End of 3.
So when we come back, another beer, and then in our final segment today, we will be trying this. This is a special bottle, right?
Yes,
All right,
it's
you
an
can-
artisanal. That's another thing I want to talk about, and a little bit, very briefly, about the history.
Okay,
because
yes,
it's
absolutely.
very rich, the
Absolutely.
history of tequila.
We want to talk about that, and you can tell us where you got this bottle, too. So, all right, so we'll take a break, and we'll be right back. This is Smoking and Toasting. See, when I the segments get really long when I start talking about tequila. This is so much fun. Be right back.
And drinking.
My hands are cold.
See,
Oh, you're
see,
fine. You're fine.
see, you're way better than that Alan Denny guy we had.
That
on.
Alan Denny guy.
Oh, that's right. They can hear you during
Yeah,
the break.
right.
Oh,
right,
and
exactly. That's why I
Cruz, since you mentioned the Day of the Dead, but not
Yes.
for here. But I do give a talk about
do you
all
really?
the
You give those
history.
specials, yeah.
I gave one at the there's a Unitarian church
Yeah, I
here,
know where it is, yep.
The medical center. I gave a talk there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Once about my specialty is talks about Mexican culture, traditions,
I was telling
Aztec
you
medicine.
about
The
her
Aztecs
relationship
knew
with
a
the
lot about.
store in the Heights that has
Oh yeah, there's
Casa
that's-
Ramirez.
Yes, I've been there. I love that
Oh,
place. Yes.
Macario passed away
Oh.
recently. I went to
Oh,
his
sorry.
funeral. But they gonna still doing things. Thank goodness. His wife, Chrissy Dickinson, and she just started selling my Virgin of Guadalupe decorated candles.
Oh, how cool.
Your wife said the other day, "Is there something you don't do?"
I know.
Well, I just love life and things, and I like to get involved.
turn into the something. What was that you growing something that you're able to turn
The
into?
loofahs? Yeah, I'm
Oh my
growing
gosh.
loofahs.
That's
Natural
awesome.
loofahs. Why? You know? and
that's awesome.
Anyways.
Well, I love it. We have a little table next to where the television is. That we have candles on it and stuff. But it's my Day of the Dead table, and I have some very cool. I have she got one for me. I just mentioned it at this cigar shop in Austin that I'd been into. I'd seen it, but I hadn't bought it. This great skeleton guy that's all dressed up. It's ceramic, and his head swivels, and he's smoking a cigar. It's
Yeah.
so awesome.
It's
That's
a
my-
beautiful
Yeah. Oh,
part of
I
the
love-
Mexican culture.
I
mean,
love that artwork and that whole celebration.
And you know,
is
my
awesome.
dream is someday to publish a book called entitled "What Mexico Gave to the World," because there's so
That's
much.
awesome.
All right.
So that's my dream, and I had to retire because my mother was very ill, and I was her main caretaker. But she passed away in March, and now I'm trying to rediscover myself. And
Absolutely,
what am I
absolutely.
gonna do with the rest of my life?
I can help you with the book.
Okay.
I'll tell you how to get it published. So
Okay.
so we'll talk about that later. All right, let's go segment number 4. Here we go. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It's nice to have you guys on board for show number 198. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Go and check them out, buy a shirt, and support the people who support Smoking and Toasting. We appreciate them. Thank you for being on board as we tell you about, by the way, if you're a cigar smoker, got to tell you about this, EP Carrillo, which, I mean, our buddy Alan Denny used to work for
Yeah.
those guys.
make
He's
great
getting a
cigars.
lot of name checks on the show
He
today. Have you
is.
notice that? I'm going to have to go down and get him to load me up with cigars just in exchange for all the name checks. But he used to work for EP Carrillo before he opened the Galveston Island Cigar Lounge. EP Carrillo has announced a new brand. It's called Pledge. They announced it back in June, and it's the third entry in their Perez Carrillo series that has La Historia and Encore as the two. So those are both
Yeah.
outstanding cigars. So this is the third one in that series, and it is being released with a special contest going on. It's a scavenger hunt kind of contest where 12 fans will win a prize that includes a special Pledge Rosewood 75 count humidor with a glass top, plus a cutter and lighter. They don't deliver it to you full of cigars, which would be the only thing about that would have been better.
Right.
But it's a beautiful humidor, and each one bears the signature of Ernesto and his daughter from the company.
Nice.
Now, here's the way it works. They personally signed, he and his daughter, the underside of the cigar band of 12 pledged cigars that were placed randomly in the boxes that were shipped out to cigar stores all over the country. It's only the first 1,250 boxes that they did this with. So it's shipping to stores later this month. If you find a cigar with the autographed band, you win. And I wanted to make sure we shared
It's
this
the
because
golden ticket.
it's the golden ticket, exactly. And I wanted to make sure we share this because can you imagine if you didn't know about the contest, but you feel that oh look, they signed it, and then you threw the band away and you missed out on your beautiful humidor. So due to the impact, they say, of the COVID-19 pandemic, Pledge is only going to be released to a select few retailers. But I do have a feeling Alan Denning may know where to get his hands on
I bet he does.
for the shop down there. But anyway, wanted to pass that along. If you're going to be able to try Pledge, make sure you at least look under the band once you take it off the cigar, because you could be the winner of a brand new humidor. Our guest today is Lilianna Rodriguez. Lilianna, it is so nice to be with you and talk about tequila. And thank you for allowing us to dub you our new tequila expert on the show. I'm going to grab a beer for Ian to pour here for this segment,
I like beer.
which I usually do during the break, but forgot. This is the Elbow Fives, Ian, and as you can see, they've got sort of an elbow
it's the
shape on there.
elbowy.
Yeah, kind of an elbowy shape. Elbow Fives is a double IPA, and I'm really kind of stoked for us to try this
Maybe
one.
an oblong chevron.
Yeah, right. Do you have enough
That's-
cups over there?
I do.
Okay, good. So go ahead and open that bad boy up, and let's do some tasting. Lilianna, talk to us a little bit about the history of tequila. How
Oh
did
my God.
people get started distilling these wonderful
It's
blue plants?
fascinating,
Yeah?
and it's still evolving. Well, think about ancient Mexico. Probably 3,500 years ago or longer. The Mexicans, especially the Otomis and the Zapotecs, they already knew the beauty of the agave plant, and they discovered that the core of the plant could give them this wonderful sap called aguamiel, but in a way it was already fermented. It had an alcoholic level because the core of the agave plants
Right.
not only has a lot of starches, but also has microorganisms.
So that was causing
And-
fermentation
Yes,
inside the plant.
natural yeast.
Wow, that's so
And
cool.
there is a legend that the goddess Maya well sent them this signal that there was a thunderstorm and a lightning rod hit one of the agaves, and then
And broke
with
it
the
open.
heat,
Yeah.
yes, it started fermenting.
That's great.
So anyway, so now let's move forward to the conquest. Cortés and his men arrive in Mexico, and by 1521, the conquest and all that, an influx of Spaniards start coming to Mexico.
yeah.
And one of their jobs was not only to evangelize the natives, but also learn everything they could about them. And they knew that they were fermenting this beverage. And it was like a mild beer, right? 5% alcohol,
Right.
7% alcohol. And they used to call it octli, but
Octli.
they rename it as pulque. But they were very strict in the Aztec civilization. Only the priests and pregnant women and people over 60 were allowed to drink pulque legally,
Wow.
and only for special ceremonies.
Ian, just think one day we'll finally be drinking age.
Nursing women, so because it was very nutritious.
Right.
So somehow, maybe a few decades after the conquest, the still gets introduced.
To this whole process,
the
right. yeah.
still was actually brought from Spain, and to this day, the distilleries in Mexico use the copper stills made in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
But they, it's not really recorded when that happened. But we also have to thank the Moors, because the Moors were the ones who taught the Spaniards about the distillation
distilling,
process.
okay. Yep.
And it is known that also the Egyptians already knew about it. So it's a multicultural event. And the still begins to be used to distill that fermented product.
Okay.
And then it was
And
turned
that's
into
when
a
tequila was actually
mezcal.
born. Mezcal.
The
Okay.
first word was mezcal, that comes from the Nahuatl language, mexcali, and it was referred to this wonderful sap that they were getting from the agaves and being fermented and then distilled. Now, it wasn't until the 1700s that people started paying attention, and then the Spaniard government started taxation
And regulating
but
it.
a lot of these little places, they used to be called taverns, interestingly, where they used to produce and offer this tequila the mezcal for drinking.
Right.
That's a wonderful happening. But in 1785, then the King of Spain says, enough, no more alcohol production in Mexico. And that prohibition lasted 10 years,
Okay.
1785 to 1795. But, the reason behind it is because they wanted their own wines to be consumed in Mexico. The Spaniards.
So they wanted to sell Spanish wines rather than mezcal.
But of course, the clandestine operation continued.
Just like what happened during Prohibition in the United States.
Exactly, it's the same thing. And it isn't until 1795, after that prohibition is lifted by Ferdinand the Fourth, the King of Spain at the time, that Cuervo establishes the first distillery and hacienda.
That's when Jose Cuervo was actually founded.
He was the first one.
Prohibition was lifted.
1795. And then we go through the Mexican independence.
Right.
1810 to 1821. But tequila continues to be consumed.
Right.
And then about 75 years later, in 1870, that's when Herradura comes.
So that was that the second big?
The second largest distillery, Herradura, was founded in 1870, and 3 years later, Sausa.
Okay.
But
so those were the first three.
Yeah. So the guy, one of the Sausas, the founders, he had worked for Jose Cuervo for many years, so he already knew the process.
Knew how it worked.
And then he started to establish himself.
Ian, I can only think that if more of this had been shared back in high school history class, I would have paid so much more attention. This is,
Right.
I always used to say, why do we need to know the dates? Now I'm fascinated by the dates.
Real history.
Because that's when the first distillery
now
was
let me
was
tell
put
you
together.
another important part. How the drink name changed its name from mezcal
to
to
tequila.
tequila.
Uh-huh.
Well, there were different designations for this drink throughout those years. It was mezcal wine, tequila wine, because it was from the region of
The tequila
where
region, right.
those, but also it was called mezcal brandy. But by the late 1800s, the tequila or the drink, the mezcal, is being well known outside Mexico.
Right.
In 1893, during a Chicago World's Fair, there was an entry and won an award for mezcal brandy. Move the clock a few years forward, 1910 in San Antonio. There's an entry for a tequila wine. Still putting the word wine on it. But then in 1923, tequila or mezcal makes it all the way to Rome, Italy,
wow.
where it's recognized as the Vino Tequila Cuervo. And then it seems that after that,
is when it
the
started
name
to
was
really,
shortened to just
To just
tequila.
tequila.
Okay.
Now, mezcal continues to be very popular, and like you mentioned, there's a new
it's
trend
really a
is
resurgence
growing.
now, yes.
What is the main two differences? There's many, but I will say two. Number one, mezcal comes from 10 different species of agaves, not agave tequilana, other
Right.
agaves, atrovidens, many. And they have different nicknames, like the largest one is called espadín. And they
Okay.
take 12 years to mature.
For-
so it
for
takes
some of the
longer,
mezcal,
but
okay.
they're huge.
Well, okay.
They
got it,
will be
got it.
taller than I am.
So they're
you
going to
know.
produce more liquid.
Yes,
Uh,
and then there's regions all over. The strongest is Oaxaca. And I have had the blessing to be there too and see the home distilleries. It's a wonderful thing.
Now, when you
and then
go ahead.
And then the second thing is that mezcal for years and years and years remained as a peasant drink.
Okay.
El pueblo.
Yep.
The drink of el pueblo.
Right. I understand.
And tequila started moving forward and began to be exported to the United States. First in wagons, the first registries mentioned shipments in burros to the border
Wow.
and go through El Paso all the way to New Mexico.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then eventually the railroad.
Right.
you know,
That's when it really started to proliferate. when
that's
you could
when
ship
it
them across
really
the country
brings
from-
a lot of dissemination.
Now, when obviously we know how much you enjoy tequila. What's your take on most of the mezcal that's coming out right now? Do you enjoy it as much as tequila? Is it something that you are as big a fan of as you are of tequila?
I haven't been as adventurous yet,
Right.
but that's on my wish list.
Okay,
I
all right,
have
fair
to.
enough.
And again, one piece of advice for people who want to start tasting. There's so many. It blew my mind just the recent numbers from the Norma Oficial Mexicana. Just to give you an example, in 1995 there were 35 distilleries. By 2003, there were 99 with 708 different tequilas.
Wow.
Any idea what they are right now? And it got just published.
I couldn't even guess. It's way bigger.
142 distilleries with 1,444.
It
different.
seems like there's a new tequila coming out every
Yeah.
week.
It's,
you know?
it's difficult to keep up. You have actually, there is now a university in Guadalajara that offers a degree on tequila engineering, and
That's so awesome. I mean,
Because
if you can't find a career now, you're
There-
not
My
trying.
high school counselor never told
Yeah, I
me
know.
that.
I know. If you can't find a career now, you're just not trying. Yeah,
Like,
that's all
you
I'm
know, if
saying.
my high school counselor brought me in and said, Ian, brew beer, I'd have been like, I'm paying attention.
Yeah, you have my undivided attention.
Suddenly I'm not sleeping in class as much.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one more fascinating thing, because I'm a biologist, as you know, biologist, I love plants.
You're
Well,
amazing.
The second important difference is that mezcal, since it continued to be a peasant drink, it always has the worm. And people always say, well,
Right.
why? Tequila will never have a worm.
Right.
And
That's a
what-
completely
Well,
wrong assumption.
There's two types of worms that parasite the agave plants. Some live in the tips and some live in the roots, the
Okay.
red ones and the white ones. But in mezcal, it only gives it authenticity. You know, it's just like a token of.
It's a gimmick, basically,
yes.
right? Yes.
In tequila, you might see the fields where they actually do the barbeo. I don't know the equivalent to English. It could be cutting the tips.
Right.
And the purpose of that is
Pruning.
cutting the
worm out. Because the worm
And-
goes all the way to the tip.
But they're not bad worms. They're beautiful creatures. They're the larvae of two different species of butterflies.
Okay. So it's like a caterpillar.
Yes.
Wow.
So, anyways, and you know, another important piece in the history of agaves is that, you know, Linnaeus, the famous naturalist, he named the agave the wonder plant because at the time of the conquest, they were amazed of all the uses,
All the
not
different
only
uses,
getting
yeah.
the sap and this mildly alcoholic drink. They were using the fibers to make,
Right.
they were making clothing. They were using the thorns as weapons or as needles. They were using the big agave leaves for roofing in their little cottages. So it's a wonderful plant. You can use up everything.
Lilianna, you are fascinating.
I want to.
You're just awesome.
I want to point out we've got a couple comments on here. Blake Matthews says, "I've got to say I've learned more about tequila in this session than I have in my whole life. Thank you for the comment."
That's awesome. Yeah.
Bruce has a question. I know it's a bad thing, but where did the salt and lime thing come from?
Oh.
Isn't it really to help mask the sort of harsher flavor of that less
Exactly.
expensive
That's
tequila.
what I'd
This
have
is
to say.
before the reposados and
Right.
before the añejos, when tequila was so harsh
Right.
that it was a way of, and there was a technique and drinking the tequila with a little bit, putting the lime juice on the doors of your hand and then the salt and then lick it and then
Well,
drink it.
Just to try to mask
Yes.
how harsh
Well,
it is.
everyone that I meet and talk to, and I'll mention that I really love tequila. You always get the, oh yeah, I had to swear off tequila because of this one time, and then they tell you that tequila story that everybody has. But all of those stories involve
The harming of
massive
salt and limes.
shots of
Oh, yeah.
tequila and the harming of salt and limes. It's like, that's not what I'm talking about. This is something to be savored and sipped and enjoyed, and you'd have to sip
Yeah.
it for a long time to come up with a story like that one you have from college when you were throwing it
long
back.
are those
Yes,
days.
yeah,
and now
exactly.
we will never use salt and lime. And I remember growing up in Monterrey, Mexico, and we used to drink tequila in a mixed drink called vampiros, like a vampire.
Ah.
It was tequila with a mix of sangrita de la viuda.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
It's a mix of tomato juice with orange juice and everything. And that was the only way we actually
Well,
could.
I've enjoyed some premium tequilas with a sangrita on the
Sangrita.
side.
On the side,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
That's a
yeah.
really nice combination, but all right, Ian. I don't want this beer to get too warm. It's an IPA, so it can stand to warm
What
a little
beer?
bit. Oh, the Elbow Fives is our double IPA. Ian, you've already done some advanced research. What are you tasting?
It's good.
It is good, isn't it? I just had a
Good.
sip.
It's interesting. It's definitely a double.
Yeah,
It's not.
It's very citrusy.
It's not super hoppy on the tail end like you'd expect. It's more citrusy and a little bit bitter. So I don't know what hops they're using, but whatever they're using is a little more pine cone, but it's tempered by the citrusy, I think.
Yeah, definitely some citra in here, no doubt about
It's
that.
really interesting how that citrus and sweetness shut each other down with the pine cone kind of what do you call it, resiny kind of hop flavor, because it balances it and doesn't leave it as a nasty aftertaste.
So I just enjoyed last night one that I don't think you would like as much. Southern Star has what I believe is a seasonal. It's the Valkyrie double IPA, and I
had that
picked
before.
some of that up. But that definitely finishes with a much stronger hop. You
Yeah.
can tell that it's a double. Finishes with a much stronger hop aroma. The Citra really seems to
This is
balance out the hop aroma
This
quite
is
a bit.
very viscous too.
Yes, it is. It's almost orange juice looking.
You-
Is this to your
Ye-
taste? Do you like this?
let me tell you. You know what I taste that you didn't mention? Peaches.
You taste peaches in there.
Yeah.
I think
This-
you're absolutely right. There is a distinct. If you go back at it now, thinking about it, Ian, you'll definitely pull the peach out. of there.
Yeah, I can go with that, especially on the retro hail. I can
Mm-hmm.
go with that. It's interesting because I expect this is so thick. I expect there to be pulp in there, and there's
Right,
not.
and there's not. I know. It's like, you ever buy the pulpless orange juice, the one that says
That's
no
too-
pulp
that's
on the
too
car?
weird.
It's too weird.
Too weird.
Orange juice is supposed to have pulp in it.
yeah,
What are you
like
talking
I always
about?
buy the high pulp orange juice. Way better.
If I drink orange juice with no pulp, I have a tendency to call it Tang.
Exactly.
All right, I tell you what we're going to do. This is delicious, by the way. Elbow 5 is Westbound and Down. And Ian, take a look on the can because they did this in collaboration with another brewery, and you'll see the logo of the other brewery there on the can. I remember when I was putting it together, but I didn't write
Brewed
it
in
down.
collaboration with Crooked Stave
Crooked Stave. Okay, so that's a pretty well-respected
from
brewery as
Denver,
well.
Colorado.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, this is good stuff. I
Both
do
from
believe it's
Denver.
a seasonal. I don't know how hard or easy it would be to find at this point, but it is worth
It
tracking
does
down.
have a little bit of tang aftertaste.
It
to
does,
it,
doesn't it?
actually,
But
yeah.
not in an unpleasant way.
Yeah.
It reminds me of being a kid and
I wonder if
wanting to,
astronauts would
wanting to
drink
be an
this.
astronaut. Exactly. All right, we're going to take a break. We're back for our final segment. In the last segment, we're going to be tasting a really interesting looking beer from Untitled Art. It's called Chocolate Banana Imperial Stout. And we're going to be tasting this one, which I'll let Lilianna tell us about in this next segment. But doesn't that just look like it's going to be good?
Also, we'll answer Catherine's question on here. What's Liliana's favorite way to drink tequila?
Okay, so we'll
Coming
get
up
to
next.
that. Coming up next, it's Smoking and Toasting, where I'm knocking over cups, and we're just getting started.
You have a message here.
So let me tell 4 bottles of this Porfirio tequila. But he's also a beer lover. And in San Arnold's, remember when San Arnold's had a competition about naming the tanks?
Yeah.
He got one of the tanks named in his honor, Gonzo, for Roberto Gonzalez.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
great.
a little
That's
story. Dear friend for many years. He was also very good friends with Macario Ramirez of Casa Ramirez.
Oh, okay.
Are we going to have time eventually, the last things, how to learn more about tequila at the end?
We definitely do that.
New trends?
Okay, yep.
We don't need to talk about I'm
I
going to
do-
answer
I
this
gotta
when we
talk
talk
about-
about the prices.
Okay, good.
What
good.
you asked, you wanted me to say, what do I think about the
Right,
prices
what do you think
of
the
tequila?
prices of tequila?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll jump back in. Ian's going to give you the class beer.
I'm going to need to call an Uber to take me home. No, it's okay.
That's why the cups are small.
Yeah, I'm trying to short pour everything a little bit.
Untitled art. All right, ready? Here we go.
You know the word of beer in Espanol?
Cerveza.
Cerveza.
Cerveza. Yes. But the nickname is chela.
Chela.
I'm going to drink a chela.
Ah, okay.
But that must be a normal.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Smoking and Toasting is in effect for our 198th show. We are brought to you
Halfway
by
to 200.
Yes, we are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great shirts for cigar lovers, starting under $20. MyCigarShirts.com, all one word. So just a couple.
Is there one on there that just says "My Cigar Shirt"? Because that would be awesome.
Well, it should actually. They should do one of those.
This is my cigar
I'll
shirt.
suggest it to the powers that be. August 7th was International Beer Day. And
Yay,
to
beer.
commemorate, yes, I know. What I love is there's a National Beer Day, there's an International Beer Day, there's a World Beer Day. Ooh, any reason we can find to have an extra beer is usually a good one. But to commemorate the occasion, on August 7th, Fat Tire, one of the top-selling American craft beers on the market, raised their price to $100 per six-pack. Fat Tire. That's roughly a 1,000% increase above what you pay for any other day of the year, and not exactly your typical, corporate promotion. But New Belgium Brewing, which makes Fat Tire, they pull in an estimated $225 million in annual revenue. They're not doing this to raise money. They're doing it to raise awareness. They put out a press release that said that the temporarily inflated price, so it was just for one day, but if you went in and tried to buy Fat Tire on the 7th of August, if the store was selling it properly, it should have been $100 for the six-pack. They said they raised the price for the day, a marketing ploy to reflect the true cost of beer 50 years from now if the climate crisis continues unabated. So this is their way of kind of nudging people towards, paying attention to, how expensive things could be in the future based on, the trends in terms of the climate and global warming. So interesting. Greenwashing is what this process is called. And it's an increasingly used marketing ploy in many industries. New Belgium, of course, has credentials to back up the call to action after the success of Fat Tire back in the early 90s. They have consistently implemented some very environmentally friendly measures into their whole business model. So anyway, if you happen to notice that the price seemed a little high a few days ago, that was why. It was about calling attention to some important
It's not
things.
helping to pay for Al Gore to fly around and tell everybody about it.
It's not. No, he's not affiliated.
Oh.
I promise. Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting. We are so thrilled to have Lilianna with us today, talking tequila. We've had some great comments on there. Oh, by the way, Blake Matthews commented that his first cigar. We were talking about when you get your first cigars or how young you were when you started smoking them. He says his first one was a $2 cheap cigar that he got from Astro World.
From
Astro
World.
living in Houston remembers Astro World. It used to be this great amusement park with roller coasters and water rides,
yeah.
and now it's an empty field.
It was
I get
for me.
sad. I get
Yeah.
sad every time I
For
drive
me,
by.
a lot of years, that was like where we'd go on Halloween.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Halloween night
not
was
only were you at
extra
Halloween, but they had music, they had concerts. It was
Saw a
it was
bunch
great.
of bands
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it was awesome. So
I see this. There
Yeah.
was a wonderful comment here from Bruce Stark.
yes,
Bruce
our
He
buddy
said,
Bruce.
Awesome.
one of the best episodes ever. Bravo, Liliana. I'm home.
Awesome.
See,
Oh, thank
we
you
told
so
you.
much.
We told you she's an expert. She knows what
I
she's
was
talking
very
about.
nervous about coming, but this
I don't know.
has been wonderful so far.
I don't know how you could be nervous about this after some of the lectures and stuff that you've given. But all right, so Ian, why don't you pour the stout and let's talk
You're
a
so
little bit
bossy.
about well, you know. Otherwise, the show's going to go on for like 3.5 hours. So, while he's doing that, Liliana, let's talk a little bit about tequila prices. What do you see happening in the tequila industry right now? Do you think the prices are they starting to get ridiculous? We've seen this to some extent in whiskeys, that prices are starting to get just super crazy for certain kinds of things. What do you think about what's happening now in the world of tequila, price wise?
Well, we're talking about companies, obviously, that want to make a lot of profit, and then to add to that, we also have
I might have poured one too
celebrities
many.
who
That's
want
all right.
their names
Right.
associated
Right,
with
and-
tequila. But think about it. Think about the process of bringing you this wonderful
How
product.
long it takes.
How long it takes. Now, it's labor intensive.
Mm-hmm.
Not only the years that it takes to cultivate the agave tequilana Weber, which, by the way, is pollinated by bats. That's an-
Pollinated by
Pollinated
Yes.
by bats.
not hummingbirds, not insects,
No,
by bats.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
That's crazy.
But
I did
also
not know that.
imagine all the hard work of these people. There's no machinery, like
Right.
not when they make bourbon or whiskey, or
Right,
they have
right.
machines that come
Right,
and
this is
hard.
by
This
hand.
is by
The-
hand.
the-
The jimadores.
Humidor
The-
is the name of the guy that
The
cuts agave,
jimadores. Oh, it's hard work. And each one of those piñas, the core of the agave, can weigh anywhere from 80 to 100 pounds, and they have to carry that on their head. They wear these special hats.
So that they can
And then-
balance it. on
Yeah,
their
because
heads.
there's no machinery to drive in between the
Wow.
rows of the plants. So imagine also the process of just the cooking that takes place
Right.
in many places, and still in ovens, like the one you were reading the label
Mhm,
about, but also now in autoclaves. Then the fermentation, and then the double distillation, and the bottling, and it's worth it. But what I don't like to see is that because Sean Diddy Combs put his name on a tequila, they want 850 for
Yeah.
an añejo bottle. That bothers me.
Right, because it's not selling for that because
Yes.
the tequila really deserves to be sold at that price. It's selling for
Yeah,
that because it's got
That money is not trickling down to the people that made
no.
it.
And you know, Ian and I were invited last year, and Adam, our producer, went with us to Honduras to a
Aladino.
tobacco plantation, to
So
the Aladino cigar
wonderful.
factory, and we came away from that seeing all of the processes that are involved, from planting to growing to harvesting to drying and fermenting to rolling. By the time they were putting those cigars in the boxes, we couldn't believe that you could actually buy a cigar for $8 or $9.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was so much that went into every single cigar.
And they make their money in pesos, like in
Right,
Mexico, and we can't pay dollars. And I don't mind paying $100, $200 for a good bottle of añejo.
Right.
So take
Absolutely.
that into consideration. Don't get deceived by flashy containers or
Right,
by
right.
the name
Or P.
of,
Diddy.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson or Santana
He's
had
oddly
his tequila
charismatic,
once,
though.
but he
isn't doing
dropped
that
it.
anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
and-
and Sammy Hagar had
Oh.
Cabo Wabo tequila, which is a very good, tequila, but it was never unreasonably priced.
No, it was never super
and
overpriced.
he sold that, and now he and Guy Fieri have this new tequila that which we had that on the show, their Blanco. It was really quite
He
good.
also partnered with Adam Levine from Maroon 5.
Yes, yep.
But now, interestingly, they're going to be promoting a mix of mezcal and tequila, so wait and see.
That's going to be interesting.
And Adam Levine does wine too, doesn't he?
I think he does. Yeah, I think he's very active. Now, here in our home state of Texas, George Strait has gotten involved
Of course.
in tequila, and he's probably
Código.
probably the biggest country artist of the last I don't know.
I love
100
George.
years.
I love George.
So the Código tequila, I noticed that you were involved in a virtual
bought one
tasting.
for the virtual tasting. I bought the reposado because it's my favorite to sip, and also the añejos. And they're okay.
Yeah,
They're okay. And everything is made in Mexico. They follow, the traditional way. And I love the way he enjoys his tequila in a rocks glass and with ice.
Hey, whatever works for
and,
you.
and I asked Mike, there's a guy who is a wonderful leader in the tequila culture. He leads the Tequila Aficionado Media, Mike Morales in San Antonio. And I asked him, I sent him an email, what do you think about George Strait? He said, Lilianna, when you are a millionaire and people all over adore you, you can do whatever you want.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Ian, I don't know if you've had a chance to put your nose to the glass of this beer
First
yet.
off, you mean my half a glass of beer?
Your half a glass of beer? Yeah.
So first off, smell that.
Oh,
It
wow.
smells. You know what it reminds me of? A banana split. Did you ever get a banana split at Dairy Queen?
Yeah.
And
chocolate.
Yes.
I smell chocolate.
That's what. But lots of banana, lots of chocolate.
This
which
smells
is what it's supposed to have.
amazing.
So-
like if I could just make a cologne that smells like this, I'd probably attract bees too. But it's unbelievable. It smells so good.
So maybe bats looking for the agave plants would come and hang out around
Yeah,
you too.
chocolate,
And it
that's
tastes-
another thing Mexico gave to the world that people don't know.
And it tastes just as good as it smells.
So Untitled Art, these guys are
holy cow! Did you say you bought this at Specs?
I did in a 4-pack.
I am heading there.
Yeah, it's. I was so excited to see it, and my excitement was nothing compared to I was telling you the guy that checked me out. I thought he was gonna just run out of the store and tell everybody.
How do you feel about this?
Have you tried yours?
I think it's great. It's something that I will enjoy maybe like a dessert.
Like a dessert. It's very much like a dessert.
It is very much.
It is also, just to let you know, 11%.
Now, see, this doesn't come off boozy at all to me.
It's huge though. But
It's almost like a banana chocolate milkshake.
yeah.
And almost feels as harmless as that might be in terms
There's
of.
what is that flavor? What are that waffle cone flavor in there as well? That kind of, the classic waffle cone.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Like the not
It's
the
a malty kind
Yeah.
of bready kind of flavor in
yeah.
there going on.
You can
Caramel.
definitely pull that out of there. yeah.
Caramel, a little
Yeah.
bit of
It's
caramel.
so good. Last week I was on the river,
Yes.
and one of the guys in the club kept pulling out beers. He's like, "Here, you got to try this. Here, you got to try this." And I was hanging out with him because everyone else was drinking Lone Star, and he was like, "Here, you got to try this stout, or you got to try this double IPA, or you got to try."
You found your tubing buddies. What you
Well,
found.
let me tell you, I'm not the guy that has to drink Lone Star all the time when I'm sitting in the sun.
Yeah.
I can drink a stout
Yes,
or a
you can.
barley wine or a porter. I don't have to have a specific drink for the sun.
So how
This
did
is
that
absolutely
go?
fantastic. Oh, it went fantastic. I brought that giant Alec Bradley cigar that I got. last time.
Yep. So
And that lasted for part of the river. It was very slow, and then I had a Blackworks Killer Bee as a backup cigar, and I ended up finishing that one as well.
nice. Well, this is delicious and highly recommended. It is almost a dessert.
We have one quick question here. Bruce asked, he hadn't had tequila since right after high school. What would you recommend for a first-time tequila drinker to try? Where do you start? That's a great question. Where do you start?
You could start by trying some reposados.
I
and
think
sip
it's a
them.
good starting place. Yeah.
Reposado, I
Like
think, would be great.
Herradura, classical one, Patron.
Yeah.
But now there's so many websites with excellent reviews about people prior experience. But I can also recommend, and I don't know if you can show these,
I can.
buy the little samples, right?
Right.
And then
That's
you
the
start
the
experimenting.
smaller sizes you can.
Before you start
The
spending
little
a lot of
bottles,
money.
They're usually up by the front of the
close to the
liquor
front of the
store,
store,
and
yeah.
they have a whole bin
Yeah.
of them. You know.
And also,
Sometimes behind a counter too.
some taquerias in Houston have these wonderful bars. There was one on North Main near I-45 that I used to go to. It had a bar called Don Julio. And over there, I enjoyed all kinds of tequilas for $8 a shot.
Nice.
And then you can start learning, and
You just try different
and
ones,
the
yeah.
bartender will.
Well, he's in Michigan, so he's probably not
Yeah.
going to have the tequila bar
but
down the
over
road.
there,
But
over there he can get the
yeah,
samples.
he could definitely try the
Yeah,
samples.
that's
And-
a very, very, very good suggestion.
Look for that 100% de agave, however.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
You definitely
and
want to.
remember to read for the NOM and your CRT and everything.
So, Lilianna, tell us about this bottle. This is going to be the last thing that we taste today. Where did this come from? This is an añejo.
Okay.
And what is this? Why is this one
That's the
special to you?
artisanal.
Well,
And I'll
it's
pass that
it's
along
dear
you.
to my heart because my son Carlos Ulloa gave it to me for Mother's Day.
Oh, that's an awesome Mother's
But
Day present.
it's part of a
I don't
new
know if-
trend in tequila making. It's called artisanal.
Okay, so
And what do that means? It means they're going back to the old ways.
back to the roots of how
with
it
the
was done.
roots of the grinding of the tequila cores.
Oh, you need cups.
Using the ovens made of stone rather than an
Right.
autoclave to cook the piñas. Some people are back to using the tajona, which is a gigantic stone to go around, or a floor covered with rocks to smash the piñas once they were cooked.
Right.
So that is an artisanal.
And this is all very old school
Yes.
methods, right?
So that is a wonderful thing. Now, I'm always very critical about things, and I guess being a microbiologist, I look with my microscope at things.
Right.
So the only thing I have to say about that tequila, but it tastes wonderful. I've been enjoying it. It has a wonderful aroma and smoky flavor. Is that they put a little flag there on the bottle, but it's not the Mexican flag. It looks like the Italian flag.
That's so interesting. Why would they do that?
I don't know because it's
Did
so
they-
tiny.
Did they maybe just get the flag wrong?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It's a beautiful bottle. The seal.
It is a gorgeous. I love the seal
with
on it.
the
Yeah.
agave plant is just exquisite. But the flag, it doesn't have that eagle in the middle,
Right.
perched on a prickly pear cactus,
Which is the Mexican
which is
flag.
the Mexican
yes.
flag.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, did you know that the prickly pear cactus is our state plant in Texas?
The state plant of Texas?
Yes.
Now, I know the state flower is the bluebonnet, but I didn't
this
know
is
the
sta-
cactus was
oh,
the
yes.
prickly pear is
yes,
the state
since
cactus.
1995. So
She's not only a tequila expert, ladies and gentlemen,
Oh.
but she also knows everything about cactus and succulents that you
Okay.
could possibly want to know. So
not everything. I learn every day.
Do we have
one more.
Okay, this is great that we're gonna use.
And thank you for
the-
sharing this with us.
Okay, well, this is a cognac, or kind of a cognac glass, and this is the one recommended to enjoy a good añejo.
Okay. And it's because the shape allows for you to get a sense of the nose. Oh, man. That
And
smells terrific.
maybe you know more than I do about this when they say you have to shake it and see the
the
tears.
legs? Yeah.
The tears, they call it lágrimas in Spanish. The
And in wine tasting, they call
Right.
it legs.
legs.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And in wine tasting, basically they teach you that if you're drinking a red wine, for example, that there should be a sort of a solid line of red, and then a small line of clear around it indicates that it's a very very good, well prepared wine.
So 3 things, right? As you guys are pros and know about tastings.
I don't know if we're
sight,
pros, but
the sight, the
Yeah.
sense of smell,
Right.
and the sense of tasting, right? So what do you think of the smell?
well, that's all I've done so far is just taking
just
the nose. But
pepper
it
and
smells terrific.
agave.
You can get
There's
pepper on the
almost
nose.
a buttery smell to it.
You can get pepper on the nose, which you don't always get on an añejo. You often get more of the mellower aromas, but you definitely get some pepper on this one on the nose.
The other thing you're going to see among the new trends is the word organic. And what do that means? It will mean that they're not going to use fertilizers or,
Right.
or anything, insecticides
Pesticides
among
and
the
stuff, yeah.
agaves. They still have to tend the fields, right, and remove weeds and everything, but
Right.
no chemicals. And also another important things on being organic is they're not going to use an outside yeast for the fermentation process. They use the natural yeast already present in the core of the agave plant.
So they're not adding yeast at all.
When they said they're organical, artisanal, and all that.
And you're seeing
yeah.
that coming up more and more in certain brands of tequila.
Yes, because the most discriminating taste, of course, they want the best. They want the purest.
Well, it's the same as paying a little more for organic vegetables. You know you're not going to get a pesticide aftertaste on your apple, you know?
So on here it says, Las Joyas del Agave introduces connoisseurs to a discrete selection of Jalisco's finest distilleries. No two Arte NOM's selecciones will ever be the same, as each represents qualities that celebrate the region and origin and unique distillation technique. We invite you to learn more about tequila terroir and the provenance of our selecciones at our website.
Well, this, I can tell you, is delicious. It certainly opens with a very full, peppery vibe on the palate, but then as it finishes, you get a little more of those notes of vanilla and some of the more things that you think of as a little more traditional añejo flavors kind of come up on the back of it, and it's
to paraphrase what I think you're saying, it starts off pretty bold, and then you can start tasting the more delicate
absolutely
flavors.
That's more on the
after
finish
that,
and
after
and-
that first
and
initial
kind of mid palate. Yeah.
blast of flavor.
And
Yeah.
to our label reader, I want to point out something interesting too. Here, you even get a handwritten number of the lot of
that's nice.
agaves used for the production of
Where
this
the
bottle.
actual agaves came from. That's great.
I love
Yes,
this person writes neater than I do, but they run out of space the same way that I do. They're like running right over into the edge of the label.
What not to give away what your son spent on your gift, but what would a bottle of this cost? Do you know?
I don't have an idea. I wanted to be modest and not nosy, and I didn't. And I did promise him that I was gonna save some for him so
Okay,
he could
good.
taste it as well. Because he's
Well,
the
then-
lucky recipient of one of the Rolling Stone bottles from the
okay,
Reserva La
okay.
Familia. I don't know if he has any left for
Well,
me, but
I was just about to say, if you want to save some of that for him, I would suggest maybe putting it away now, because it is
I'm gonna have to.
it
I'm
is
gonna have to
delicious.
see if Carlos
and
wants
it's
to jam a little bit and
really
share some
close
of his
to
tequila.
Ian.
my son knows Ian.
Yeah,
they play
you played
together
together
in a band.
right?
Yeah, we did.
That's
Yes.
it.
Quite a few years
Yeah,
ago.
That's right. Well, I will tell you, Lilianna, this show has been a blast for me. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time, and we originally had scheduled it earlier, but we had to reschedule, and so I'm so glad that we finally got to do
Yeah.
this. And I wanna thank you for being here and telling us about all this crazy information, things I never would have known.
Yeah.
And if people want to find out more about tequila, where'd you get your some of your knowledge you got
Yeah.
from going to the distilleries and stuff,
Yes.
but where can people find out more about tequila?
Well, there are books for people who like to read, but also there is now a new app called Tequila Matchmaker that they
Tequila
can download
Matchmaker.
from Google Play.
Ah.
There's
It's
also
like match.com for me and tequila.
I love it.
There's the Tequila Aficionado. I already mentioned Mike Morales in San Antonio.
Right.
The Tequila Aficionado media blog. He has a lot of wonderful emails and magazines. Taste.tequila.com is another blog from two gringos that move into Mexico because they love tequila so much. and they
Sounds
were,
like a plan, Ian.
they were journalists.
Yeah, and so
now
they started this blog.
They started
That's
that blog.
taste.tequila.com?
Yes, taste.tequila.com blog. Also, if you read Spanish, the CRT website, the Consejo Regulador de Tequila, and also the NOM is the Norma Oficial Mexicana, tells you all the different products now available.
And you can get Google to translate that for you, by the way.
And
Nice and
if
easy.
you also
We'll be
want
awkward.
a piece of advice on tasting, I will check the scores from the San Francisco World Spirits Competition
Okay.
that they have every year.
yeah.
Tequilas always make it there at the top. And
That's so cool. That's so cool.
And did you know that now the consumer, the highest or the top consumer of tequila is which country?
Is it the United States?
Yes.
Wow, I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily surprised. Listen, we've been drinking tequila in the States for a while, but it as a beverage of choice has definitely surged over the past few years. Now we've seen the same thing happen with rum and of course with bourbons, but there's something about tequila to me that stands out as being a very different spirit from those things. I think of rum and whiskey as almost being cousins to each other, but tequila is like that friend you have that came in from down the street and said, check this out, this is a little different.
Well, you know, before we started the show, I knew just about nothing. Before we started the original beginnings
Before we
of
started
the show,
smoking and toasting, yeah.
I knew almost nothing about tequila, and I wasn't a big fan. I didn't not like it. It's just that my experiences with it were the average, college experiences. And you are always much more a big fan of tequila and have introduced me to a whole world of it that made a big difference. This has been incredibly enlightening to me because I haven't
really
spent any real time researching and learning much about tequila. So thank
I'm
you very
glad.
much.
And it's been
I'm
fun for
glad.
us. And by the way,
Yeah.
the tasting's been outrageous.
Yes.
My
good.
pleasure.
So will you allow us from this point on to refer to you as our tequila expert? Is that okay?
If you wish.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure we had your permission. Lilianna, let's do this again. I actually had been talking to Ian about we were going to do this for a show several weeks ago, and then I had my dates mixed up, and we actually had a guest booked for that, so we haven't done it. We would love to have you back. We wanted to do a Reposado blind taste test where we taste 5 or 6 different reposados, talk about what they are, pick our favorites, and then reveal which ones they are. Would you come back and join us for that in a few months?
I'll be honored if I get invited.
All right.
So yes.
Very good. Absolutely. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Can people find you on Facebook? How do they find you on Facebook if they want to see the photos? Adam, did we ever put up the photo of her? Can we put that up right now? We have a photo of Lilianna's tequila shelves. And I
because
want Adam to
I'm
post
not
that.
a commercial enterprise of
Right.
any kind.
Right,
I'm
you're just you.
a regular person
Well,
who loves
And you're now
her
the
culture.
and now you're the official tequila expert of smoking.
But
and
I
toasting,
also
so.
love my Texan culture,
Yes,
that I have
absolutely.
lived for over 30 years. I'm a member of the speakers committee of the Houston
So,
Livestock Show and Rodeo.
You can see this,
And
Ian. This is her collection of books about tequila, I believe, or at least books about
some of them-
Mexican culture,
yeah.
Some
right?
of them,
No,
yeah.
tequila.
Oh,
Those
these
are
are all
just
about tequila.
tequilas.
Okay.
Solely tequila?
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
We have a library, and my husband is actually with so much time to kill, right? In
Yeah,
quarantine, he's
And then
cataloging
there you go,
all
Ian,
the
the
books
tequila
we
shelves.
have.
That's
You
amazing.
see that? That's
Some of
awesome.
them.
Yeah. Well, Lilianna, this has been such a pleasure. We will absolutely invite you back, and as long as you will be willing to hang out with us, and we'll try to bring some good things along to taste. So
Thank you so much.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this very special tequila show. It's been a whole lot of fun for us, and we will be back again next week. We're going to be doing a lot of cigar talk next week because Trey Boring will be joining us. He is our legal expert. He works with not only with Cigars for Warriors, which is an incredibly
Amazing.
awesome and amazing organization that sends cigars out to our servicemen and women that are stationed overseas, but he also is a part of Cigar Rights of America. They are the people. There's not a lot of people who lobby for premium cigar fans. That's what they do. They watch the law. They are very much aware of what's happening, and they try to stand up for our rights as people who enjoy a premium cigar every now and then. And Trey will bring us up to speed on the very latest in the legal battle. And, of course, knowing Trey, he'll tell a few off-color jokes and enjoy some drinks with us. So that'll be something to look forward to. Thanks very much to Mary for putting this together. Thanks to Adam on the Wheels of Steel. And thanks to you for being with us for, at least some of you have been with us for 198 episodes, including the mystery episode, which never got aired, but that's another topic for another time. Have a great week, my friends. We will be back with you and Trey Boring next week, and we usually say
Salud.
cheers, but we should say salud.
Salud.
Thank you.
Salud.
Smoking and toasting. Yes, my friend.
Thanks. I had so much fun, guys. You know, we didn't have
Sunshine is so good to you.
Wearing cigars and tequila.
Oh, yeah, well, we'll
Cigar Advisor, Wolfhausen.
yeah, we had to leave you some material for next time. So
Boy.
much fun.
Did you learn something new?
I learned a lot, actually, and I thought I knew a lot about tequila.
That was absolutely fantastic.
I had no idea about the bats, yes.
Yeah. The other thing is that they used to castrate the plants. You know, they have to castrate
Right,
when they're gonna grow the stalk to flower,
right.
so they can
That's
start
cut that, right.
producing more the
More of
sugars,
the- right.
the starch, the starches. So in the 1980s, they had a big plague. There were some bacteria killing the agaves, and they discovered why. Because the plants were only reproduced by the pups that grow
Right,
around.
right.
They didn't
They weren't
have
reproducing by the flowers.
genetic
Yeah, right.
diversity. So
Right.
now, in every tequila plantation, they have to have some of the
That they
plants,
leave the flowers.
the
yeah.
flowers. So there's cross pollination,
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
that you get more genetic diversity. And the bats play a big role in that because they were losing the crops
Yeah,
because
wow.
they never let the plants bloom. As soon
Right,
as they
as soon
give
as
the
they would
pops,
start- right, yeah.
they will get them and start a new plot
Right,
and
right.
everything. So this
And
was
that's
fun.
true with some other plants as well, or trees, or there's certain ones that you have to let them go to seed, even though they maybe aren't as tasty or whatever after they do that. But you have to let them do that in order for this process to play itself out. So.